Good? I'd like to welcome everybody to the October 20th regular meeting of the Marlborough Township Board of Education. Cindy, please call the roll.
Good evening, everyone. Mrs. Dean? Here. Mrs. Eddy? Here. Here. Mrs. Lubidell's not here. Mr. Marshall?
Here.
Mrs. Matos?
Here.
Mrs. Rosenwald?
Here.
Mrs. Wolf will be late. Mr. Lalansky?
Here. Please be advised this meeting is being held in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, Public Law 1975, the Sunshine Law. The adequate notice of the date, time, and agenda is sent to the Asbury Park Press and a news transcript. It has also been posted and filed with the Marlborough Township Clerk. Copies have also been sent to each district school and other area newspapers in accordance with the law. I'd like to draw your attention to, but I'm not going to read its entirety, statement of videotaping a public portion of Board of Education meetings, our public session statement, as well as the no smoking on school grounds. Everybody please rise and join me for the pledge. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I'd like to welcome and acknowledge Mayor Hornick, who is with us tonight. Welcome, Mayor. Artwork display, sir?
Sure. So we have two different forms of artwork. In the lobby, we have courtesy of Mrs. Chapelinski at Middle, and that was all about 1 point perspective. And then we have in the boardroom, courtesy of Champions, study of the Masters of Art, and Leonardo da Vinci's Mona Lisa. Sir.
Thank you, sir. I'd like to announce and thank once again Mrs. Tara Goswitz, DMD, who's the district's Emerald Level sponsor for the 2015-2016 school year. School bus abstracts, Mr. Drew?
Yes, as we do every month, abstracts were won on all of our transportation and buildings and grounds drivers, and they all have status, privileges, and good standing.
Thank you. Any communications, sir?
No, sir.
Okay. Everybody received a copy of the superintendent's report, as well as the harassment, intimidation, bullying, HIB report, September 24th to October 14th, 2015. So, 2 incidents. Does anybody have any questions on those? Okay, moving on. Current enrollment sits at 5,080 students, which is 75 less than the same time last year. Upcoming meeting dates, please take note, this one's going to be a Thursday, November 12th is our workshop, and then back to the regular Tuesdays again, November 24th, regular meeting. We have approval of minutes resolution. Craig, do you mind reading, please? Page 3.
Be resolved that the minutes for the following meetings be approved as submitted, September 29th, 2015, regular and executive. So moved.
Thank you, Craig. Seconded by Debbie. Any discussion on the minutes? Seeing none, Cindy, please call the roll.
Mrs. Rosenwald?
I abstain.
Mrs. Dean?
Yes.
Mrs. Eddy?
Yes.
Mrs. Matos?
Yes.
Mr. Marshall?
Yes.
And Mr. Lalansky?
Yes. Everybody received a copy of the Secretary of Business Administrator's report, including the payroll certification. Does anybody have any questions or comments on those items? Seeing none, we're going to lead off tonight with our referendum presentation by Dr. Hibbs. So, Dr. Hibbs. I'm going to move.
Hello, everybody. How are you? I want to start first because I think that many of you are here because of Asher. So what I would like to tell you is that I am not on social media. So last night I had a conversation with my board president. Where's Michael? Michael. And Michael explained to me that David, raise a hand, was on News 12 regarding offering his services to help restore the paintings that he did a long time ago at Asher Homes. So David will tell you that I reached out to him today, and I asked him, because I said you were on the news yesterday saying you'll donate your time and energy to help us refinish the paintings and to restore the paintings that we have at Asher. David said he absolutely would be willing to do that, and he's coming in next week to walk around and to see everything. Just so you understand, the paintings at Asher are, and I fully understand, they are embedded in the culture and are very important. From about the waist down, they get hit with our children. and they need to be upkept. It's really the long and short of it. The board and I have made a strong commitment to making sure that the appearance of all of our buildings is a pretty place for our children. So we simply need to touch up the paint. And David very graciously offered his services today. So just so you know, there never was any concrete plan to whitewash the walls at Asher. I never presented anything to the Board of Education, and they'll tell you that we never fully discussed this. There was always discussions about, we were researching what would happen, but there was no formal plan. So when David offered his services, I very graciously accepted and think that would be a great way for Asher to be rejuvenated from the waist down, so to speak. Okay? I'm glad you're here tonight. We don't usually get a crowd. So I think a lot of you are here to discuss your feelings about Asher. And I think that's wonderful. I really do. Because what you're here is you're saying that our buildings are important to you and Asher is important to you. On Tuesday, November 3rd, we're going to have a referendum for not just Asher, but for the entire district. We're going to have a referendum that is essentially broken into two separate pieces. So when you look at our referendum, it's going to address the infrastructure, capital improvements, and it's also going to address an addition at the Abbott Early Learning Center. This is going to be a one ballot question. Why is it going to be a one ballot question? This comes up a lot. The board had a thorough discussion. Both of these projects, even though they're inherently different, one being a full-day K transformation and one being the upkeep and the improvement, systems improvement of 6 out of 8 of our buildings, were both equally important. Are they exactly the same in identity? Of course not. One really transforms our half-day program, which our children deserve, to a full-day program, and the other would replace systems that are simply out of date. So that's how that will look on Tuesday, November 3rd, as one ballot question. Okay, how did we get here? So this is my second year in. The board had had discussions for a long time about a comprehensive study. So we invoked the services of our architect and our engineer, and they went into every nook and cranny of every building, including the Abbott Early Learning Center and also Memorial, which are our 2 newest buildings. You will note that when we talk about the projects at each building, when we talk about the projects at each building, you're not going to see any priority projects here from Memorial. It was built in 2003. It's not going to have any of our focus projects. The same with the Abbott Early Learning Center. Okay? So, what is a bond referendum? The board is going to ask for a specific amount of money for specific projects, and then the community has the opportunity to vote. It's typically paid back over a number of years. The number of years that we're looking at is 20 for this scenario. Got it? Go for it. Okay, so why are we having this referendum now? The first bullet talks about it's time to address our priority projects. When you walk into Defino, the unit ventilators are over 50 years old. Most of you don't know this. If you're here today regarding Asher, Asher's boiler last year literally had a piece of it fall out. Not a piece on the top, literally a piece literally in the middle fell out of Asher's boiler, and we had to have it welded back on. These are systems that we have maintained, we have properly taken care of. They've simply reached their end of life. Much in your house, when the hot water heater goes, every 7 to 10 years if you're lucky, when you have to budget for a new roof. These are things that typically we can't take care of in our normal budget. Our normal operating budget is upwards of $90 million, which is a lot of money. When you look at the capital and infrastructure improvements that we're discussing, what we're talking about here is roughly $26 million. There is no physical way that this board or any board could then take that $26 million and put that into the operating budget. It simply does not work mathematically. The question that I get all the time is, could you simply have put this into the budget over the next X number of years? And the answer, sure, we could absolutely do that. And by 2072, we might have a new boiler at Asher Homes. We can't physically do that, which is why the board is trying to address these systems issues now. The second bullet talks about full day K. Since I've been here, there has been a consistent stream of our community that have come in and talked about the importance of full-day kindergarten. And they're absolutely right. We are one of the few districts in Monmouth County. We are one of the very few districts that are and look and perform in a high-achieving category like us that do not have full-day K. Third one, the first bullet on this page talks about being fiscally responsible. The board decided to tie this to the general election. In doing that, we saved tens of thousands of dollars in not holding this election on one of the 4 other dates that we could have held it on. Tying it to the general election saved money. The 4th debt and the 5th debt are very important, and they were part of the strategy for this referendum. So what we have is, in July of 2019, we have existing debt that is coming off from the referendums for both Memorial and Abbott. So I have a slide dedicated later which will show you exactly what that means, but it's really important to note that the elimination of that debt will essentially mean that there'll be 1 year of a tax increase on referendum debt that you will see. The 5th point here talks about 40%, and this question comes up a lot. 40%, what this means is the state gave us our specific eligible costs. It's roughly $26 million. When they gave us those eligible costs, we were then eligible for 40% back through debt service. What that means is that with a successful referendum, we will then have 40% back through debt service. If we would attack these projects in a single fashion, what would happen is that we would be eligible for 0. We would not be eligible for any aid from the state at all. So, what are our priority capital projects? DeFino. So, notice, these are all priority projects. Question that comes up all the time, why didn't you address these? Well, the board did not address these specific priority projects, but they have addressed other priority projects consistently through every budget, going back, in more years than we have fingers. Every year we have maintenance, we have capital projects in our budget in Marlboro. An example, this summer, we put half of a roof on at Old Middle to the tune of $1 million. We have the second portion of that roof set to go this year. This board in the past has been very physically prudent and responsible in not tying things like roofs into a referendum, because the belief was that we should handle that in our operating budget, which is what the board and past boards did a great job of. What we're talking about here is nothing that we did wrong, nothing that we neglected, just simply things that we have to manage and we have to replace. So, DeFino. Single pane windows, the HVAC, in all 6 of the schools that you'll see, minus Abbott and Memorial, you're going to notice that there's HV and AC. So, when the board looked at the cost proposals from our professionals to do the air conditioning as opposed to just the heating and the ventilation was about approximate 20% extra cost. And the board felt, and I agreed, that for the 20%, it was worth it, because when you're doing construction on a building for HVAC, you literally have to perform almost an open heart surgery on the building. So if you're going to do that for the extra 20% for the rest of our lives in Marlboro, it to the board made perfect sense to do the AC in addition to the heating and the ventilation. So you have a replacement of the electrical panel boards and feeders, a replacement of the fire alarm system, replace the water heater, and the automatic temperature control main panel. That's DeFino. Dugan, HVAC, the fire alarm system, and the automatic temperature control main panel. Morrell, windows, HVAC, electrical panel board and feeders, the fire alarm system, the water heater, and the automatic temperature control main panel. You will see some redundancy all throughout here. Robertsville, windows, HVAC, the boiler, pumps, and expansion tank, the electrical panel boards, feeders, and main switchboard, the fire alarm system, the water heater, and the automatic temperature control main panel. Asher, windows, HVAC, boiler, pumps, and expansion tank, the main electrical distribution panel boards and feeders, the fire alarm system, and the automatic temperature control main panel. Old Middle, you're going to see a lot of the same. Windows, HVAC, the boilers, the pumps, the expansion tank, the electrical panel boards and feeders, the fire alarm system. Middle has the generator here that's specific and indicative to Old Middle, and the automatic temperature control main panel. I've already addressed this slide. This talks about Memorial. They have no priority projects. Okay, Abbott. So what is Abbott going to do? Abbott is going to transform our current half-day building into a full-day building. It's going to add approximately 28 classrooms. It's going to add a cafetorium that will double as a gym and a cafeteria, and it's going to renovate the existing common areas. Question that I get all the time is, why 28? The board was presented with several options. What we looked at was the height of our enrollment, which we believe one day we will be back to. We wanted to have a building that we were 100% comfortable that we would not be short or would not be able to service all of our children. The day after Memorial, capacity, correct? When we built Memorial, it was essentially almost immediately at capacity. And that's not what we really wanted to look at. The price difference between 24 rooms and 28 rooms was almost negligible. So we wanted to make sure that we would have enough space for all of our children. Brian, you can keep going. Okay, these are the plans. So notice the part that's shaded is going to be the new area. It is going to be built on, and the bottom right-hand portion will be 2 stories. We're doing it this way for several reasons. A, there's wetlands at Abbott, and we had to be very strategic about how we placed the envelope of the building. You have the cafetorium right in the middle, and the renovation of the existing common areas is the top left. If you've been to Abbott, it's going to be the existing commons that are there right now, and that will be renovated into a media center for our children, because there currently is no library, there's no computer lab. If you've been to Abbott, you know the library some years is in the hallway, other years it's in a small closet. It's not very good for our children. Okay? So, Brian, can you go back real quick, please? Notice when we talk about the common areas, the next slide is going to talk about our eligible costs. The only eligible cost that we have at Abbott is going to be the existing common areas that's in your top left, and I'll explain that now. Okay. The total amount of the referendum is $46,642,000. Of that, the capital and infrastructure improvements will cost the district $26,300,000. So, the state looked at our projects for the capital, and they said, okay, here is what we find to be eligible, and that is that number. We are eligible for 40% back through debt service, which equates to $10,520,000 that will be funded by the state of New Jersey. That money is only accessible to us if there's a successful referendum. If there's not, then you'll pay 100% as opposed to 60% for these capital projects. You know what, go back one slide for me. Let me back up. Question that I get all the time is, what avenues did you explore for full day K? And we explored every avenue we possibly could. So the first avenue, and it's one that I think that it's hard to believe, but absolutely true, is that if your enrollment was once at 6,000 and it dropped to roughly 5,000, why do you not have a whole lot of extra space? The answer is quite simple. 10 years ago, we did not have the same special education demands that we have right now. Our rooms are being utilized throughout our entire school district. There's not enough space for us to put full day K into our existing buildings. So the minute that we entered into this discussion, the board looked at me and said, Dr. Hibbs, we want you to really do a deep dive on that. And we did. If we could have fit full day K into our buildings, you would have full day K as of right now. It simply wasn't possible. The second avenue, could you possibly take 5th grade out of the elementary schools, transition it to the middle schools, squeeze them all in, open up a new grade level, which will allow kindergarten to then take the existence of that empty slot? The answer is no. Capacity at Old Middle is around 1060. Capacity at Memorial is roughly 990. Those numbers would have been eclipsed by hundreds of students. Would not physically work. Could you build on? Could you look at each individual school and build on? you most likely could have. It would have cost you about 1.66% higher than this bond referendum. Because when you do solo projects, as opposed to one big project, it ends up driving your costs way up. Not only your construction costs, but also your architect and schematics. So really, what it came down to are three options. Option A, we never have full day K in Marlboro. Option B, it passes and we have full day K. The third option would have been to actually take the existing classes that you have at your elementary schools, look at grades 1, 2, and 3, cut your homerooms down and raise your class sizes to empty out rooms so that you could then fit your full day K in. I didn't like that option. I thought that was a bad option for our children. You know, we roughly stick to around 20-ish for K, which is an appropriately and a research-based number for small group instruction, for differentiation for our children. Putting upwards of 30 kids in a classroom in grades 1, 2, and 3 is just horribly bad for children. So I couldn't get behind that suggestion because I fundamentally didn't think it was best for any child. So those were the three options that were left, which brought the board to the point where we are right now. Okay, you can go back to that one. Thanks, Brian. Okay, so when you look at Abbott, Abbott will cost $20,342,000. Abbott is only eligible for $140,000, and the reason why that is that we have no displaced children. So the state will only fund the renovations to the existing common areas. So the cost of the renovation to the existing common areas is $350,000. 40% of that is the $140,000. What that means is that our total eligible cost is $10,660,000. Okay, so what does it mean? So if you take the average priced home, and I know that some people will fall way above this in Marlboro, but if you look at the average home in Marlboro is $465,000. If you look at that, what happens is that the existing debt comes off in 2019. So right now, even though you may not have the item analysis for your property taxes, the average home pays approximately $306 worth of old debt right now. What this means is that you will continue to pay that same $306 for 3 years. The fourth year, you'll see an $80 increase, and then after that fourth year, you will have an elimination of debt from both Memorial and from Abbott, which means that your referendum taxes will then lower by approximately $175 on the average priced home. Now this is referendum debt. This is not other school tax, 100%. This is no other form of tax that is being taken into consideration here. This is simply referendum tax. But when you look at this, the board put this proposal together because there were two projects, 100%, that we felt were utterly, I'm sorry, can I steal that? Were utterly important to Marlboro for a lot of reasons. You're welcome. So the first one would be the capital and the infrastructure. We can't ignore these issues. We 100% can't. We 100% have addressed these issues as they come up, but we have the opportunity of getting 40% back on the dollar. Okay? As far as full day K goes, my opinion, our children deserve full day K. They absolutely do. I can't look at you and tell you that it'll raise your property values. I don't have a crystal ball. I don't. But what I can tell you is that when you are a younger family with children, this is a consideration, 100%. Coupled with the fact that in a half-day program, our children are in and they're out, and they're in and they're out, and the depth of learning that we need for K is simply not there. It's not. Now, this is a very personal decision. There are people, and I've talked to a lot, that fall all along the gradient. I believe in it. I don't have kids, so I don't care. I love it, and I really support it, and there's people that fall all in between. I can't tell you how to feel or how to vote. What I can tell you is that when full day K in my town was on the chopping block, because we had it, I knocked on doors. Because to me, it was that important to keep. To me here, as the educational leader, I think this is something that Marlboro deserves and our children deserve. So I believe in both of these projects. Debt service aid is paid back by the state, but it's only given back with a successful referendum. Okay, so what this essentially means, with referendum debt, you're going to have 1 year of essentially an $80 increase on the average home, and we can address our current priority projects. And when we went through this comprehensive study, which was a 72-page study that you can see the summary on right on the website. On our website, you're going to see a referendum tab. There's a lot of information there. There's the flyers that have gone home. There's the PowerPoint that we're discussing right now. There's schematics, but not anything that would broach or breach security for us, because that would be a problem, because we take security very seriously. 1 year of an $80 increase will allow us to address both our priority projects that exist right now and full decay. It's scheduled on Tuesday, November 3rd. Polls open at 6 and they close at 8. Is that right? It's okay. Okay. Where can you get more information? Right on our referendum tab. We have some community nights that have gone out. We've done a mailing to every house with a registered voter. So our next one is this Thursday. What we do is we do the same presentation and then offer time for questions, both to me and to the professionals, and to Cindy, who answers a lot as well. Okay? Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Dr. Hibbs. I just want to mention as well, as I know you mentioned the part that fell off the boiler, one of the boilers, but we had parents here last winter because their children were wearing jackets in one of our buildings. Dugan. And because the heat wasn't working in a lot of the classrooms. That's where we're at. That's how serious this is for us. The buildings are getting old, they're failing. As Dr. Hibbs said, when your water heater gets old, you can make the decision whether you replace it, or you wait for the flood, or you come home from work and you can't take a shower. This board has to protect our children. We need heat in our buildings. We can't wait for the day when someone walks into a building with 1,000 kids in it and there's no heat. What do you do? No. So we're trying to be proactive.
And that's, Mr. President, it's 100% right. So, at home, we have it very easy. Our hot water heaters go. We simply go to Lowe's, we go to Bradford White, they're delivered in 2 days, and it's done. Last Christmas Eve, I'm the eternal optimist. Our hot water heater was literally running down. I'm downstairs with my wife's turkey baster, which she doesn't let me forget because I ruined it, and I'm thinking I could siphon the water off. I can fix it. If that happens at any one of our buildings, our children are displaced, 100% displaced, and there's nowhere that we have to instruct them. The other thing I should have mentioned as well for air conditioning and the HVAC will be tiered in over about 4 years. And the reason why that would happen is that a lot of school districts bite off more than they can chew right out of the gate. And if they try to do HVAC in the entire building, a lot of times what happens is the building cannot operate and it won't be functional. So what we'll do is we'll take our 3 oldest buildings and do half, and then it will essentially rotate over 4 years, not only to be equitable, but also to ensure that we'll be able to open our buildings on time. Sir.
Thank you, sir.
You got it.
NJ CUSAC presentation?
Yes.
Statement of assurance for 2015-2016 school year?
Yeah. So this is our year to go through the CUSAC monitoring process. For those of you who don't know what that is that's a state process that they make us go through, and we have to go through the different levels, fiscal, our operations, our curriculum and instruction. So being that we are a high achieving district and that the last time we went through CUSAC, we met all of our indicators. So what that did was that put us on the fast track and put us in a path where they then put us into a separate category that if we do our deep dive internally for CUSAC and turn it in and meet all of our requirements, that we will not have to go through the full monitoring process. The state, I think, realized and heard from different constituents that the process was way too rigorous and that we were essentially great enough that to pass, we simply have to fill out our SOA, our statement of assurance, and then we have to just simply submit. So we went through all of our indicators for curriculum instruction, fiscal management, governance, personnel, and operations. On our statement of assurance, we met every one of those 100%. So I have to announce that, and then we can simply submit to the state.
Very good.
Yeah.
Excellent, sir. Anybody have any questions on the board? Okay, thank you for the presentation, sir.
You got it.
A mandatory hearing on district violence and vandalism report for NLCB and CLB.
You got it. Okay, so for our mandatory hearing on district violence and vandalism, as per NCLB, so I'm reporting from September 1st, 2014 to June 30th of 2015. There were 5 incidents of violence and vandalism for 14-15, from 9/1/14 to 6/30/15. All of these incidents were classified as harassment, intimidation, or bullying. There were 5 incidents, and all at the middle schools, 4 from Memorial and 1 from middle, and you have that as a scan.
Very good. Any questions of those board members?
And we had to do that, by the way. The state revised the violence and vandalism to include HIB referrals as well, ones that were found legitimate.
All right, thank you, sir.
You got it.
That'll bring us to our first public session. I want to just mention that to properly honor our retirees, we're going to move, if you have any comments for our retirees, you'll be invited up to talk at the time we do our presentations on our retirees. This way you'll be able to give them the proper time that they deserve. For us, the regular public sessions are open to any item you'd like to address the board on. It's open for 60 minutes. There'll be 3-minute time per person. I need to stop you at 3 minutes. We will, I'll ask that when Cindy holds up, she'll hold a yellow card up to give you a 1-minute warning, and a red card up to tell you the time is over. I have to be fair to everybody. When the 3 minutes is up, it's up. Please, I ask that you work together with me so we can get through this. And that's it. We have a clipboard. We'll work through the clipboard first, and if there's anybody else that's not in the clipboard, you're still welcome to speak. Cindy?
Okay, I'm going to apologize up front because I am terrible in pronouncing names unless I know you for a long time.
I'd rather not mispronounce mine.
No, I promise I won't, Mrs. M. Eisen Sue?
So I we just need as well, I forgot to mention name and address on the microphone as well for the record.
Okay, hi board. My name is Eason Su. I'm here on behalf of Mama Chinese School, 48th of So
Can you hear him?
I can hear him.
You put the microphone, you can take it out and bring it up close. There you go.
Hi. Okay.
No.
Yep. Hi. My name is Eason Su. I am the principal of Mama Chinese School, and I'm here to urge the board member to vote no on the proposal for provision of school monitors at certain events. We have read the proposal, and we believe that this is undue hardship on the school financially. And at the same time, we feel that we have done our duties by assigning patrols at the perimeter doors to guard all the entries to make sure that all of our security is in place. And at the same time, that we also have patrols and staff members who walk around and inside the school to make sure that there are no damages and children running and potential dangers that could occur in the school. So we feel that we're actually taking care of the school as a renter of Dugan Elementary School, and we question the need and the value add of these security monitors that are, I guess, imposed on the school. So if the board could clarify on the actual role and duty of these monitors, and at the same time, we want to make sure that these monitors do not carry firearms. So we are not clear exactly what they're supposed to do and their responsibilities. So we just want to make sure that we reflect to the board that we do not want any security personnel with firearms in the school.
Okay, thank you, sir. Cindy, before you call the next name, I just would be remiss. I want to take a second and thank Mr. Wells on behalf of the board as well for, as Dr. Hipp said, donating his time to fix our murals and get them back in nice and bright and shiny. So on behalf of the board, sir, I know you're back there somewhere. Thank you very much. I also want to mention as well, we answer questions at the end of public session, so we'll at that point, after we get all the questions. Cindy.
Next name, Bonnie Gabazon. Hello.
Bonnie Gabazon, 2 Harvest Court. Okay, obviously a lot of people here tonight, so I'll keep it brief to the 3 minutes. I came to speak about Park, but I just want to touch on some of the other things that are an issue tonight. The murals at Asher, I've never been to Asher. I haven't seen them. but it's obviously something that is very near and dear to a lot of people's hearts, and I just would like to thank the board and Dr. Hibbs for making it clear that they are listening to parents and taking the wishes of the community into their decision-making process. Another instance of that, last year when I was speaking about, and a lot of people were complaining about the common assessments, that this year the weight of the common assessments were reduced and a supplemental bucket was included to allow for more portfolio-type assessment. At least I hope that it will be a more portfolio-type assessment. Secondly, the referendum, I think it's great that you've been putting the information out there. You can't miss it if you tried, and it's important information for everybody to know. Personally, I support it. I think both issues are issues that need to be taken care of, and just because they haven't gotten done in the past, I think it's a good opportunity to get them done now. Park. Last year was a large refusal movement by parents based on the fact that it's an invalid test that was taken away from teaching time. It's a hugely expensive mandate from the state that is not funded by the state, taking away our local tax dollars to be used for this invalid test. Massachusetts recently did a study. They gave the test, for a test that's supposed to determine whether students are college and career ready. They gave the test to a large number of college students that were maintaining a 3.5 GPA or higher, and a majority of them were deemed not proficient, so it's no indication of college or career readiness. The scores came out today. They are cut scores, which means that the state can use a high, cut them high or cut them low to tell the story that they would like to tell. They were cut high, and a majority of New Jersey students were deemed not proficient in math and English. Last year was a big pushback by parents. It accomplished two things. First, they pushed the requirement for graduation back another year to 2020, and the state finally put out a memo guiding districts on how to treat refusals, saying that they cannot be penalized and they need to be treated non-punitively, which is what was being done here in Marlborough anyway. Thank you, Dr. Hibbs and the board, but clearly not being done across the state. I would hope that this
I need
year
to finish up, Bonnie.
we see more pushback from educators and administrators joining that fight with parents.
Thank you.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bonnie.
Okay, here I go again. Sundar Raja? Raj? How bad did I do?
Pretty good.
Thank you for making me feel better.
I'm Sundar Raj, 46 Stevenson Drive. First of all, good job for Dr. Hibbs with Marlborough Schools. It's the first time I'm attending this meeting. And mainly for the referendum, I support both the sections of the referendum, for the maintenance and for the full day kindergarten. But I have a couple of questions. You talked about, there are more details available. I went to the website. I found only a summary slides, right? Mm-hmm. Is there any extra detail for someone who wants to drill down and get more detail? Is it available? You talked about, you've done due diligence, you've looked at all the alternatives. Are there spreadsheets that you work with, looked at all the, pros and cons? Can we get that level of detail?
So what's going to happen?
You can enter at the end.
Yeah, so what's going to happen is you ask all your questions, I'll write them down, and then we'll answer them all at the end.
No problem.
So I got that one written down for you.
And there was a provision to ask questions on the website. I submitted the question October 6th. So far I didn't receive any answer. So I don't know if that's the usual period of time. And the other question is there a place where you post all the questions you received from all the residents of Marlborough? And you post post all the answers online so that all the residents of Marlborough have the benefit of knowing what questions were asked and how you answered. That's pretty much it. And the last question I had was, you have, your proposal includes air conditioning, but, things are up for some, right? If I look at the temperature records for the last couple of years, hardly like 4 or 5 days when the temperatures were above 78. So my basic question is, why do we need air conditioning in schools? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Cindy?
I'm getting there. Tracy Goff.
Brian's going to go first.
Okay. I need the spelling of his name, please.
Brian Markowitz, M-A-R-K-O-W-I-T-Z.
M-A-R.
K-O-W.
Got it.
I-T-Z.
Thank you.
And 47 Regina Road.
Thank you.
You?
I'm here to present the petition signed by over 1,100 parents, students, former students of Asher Homes to save the murals on the Asher Homes walls. Presented to the board.
To the business administrator.
Thank you.
I think this one thing that the board needs to realize here is that this petition, much like Asher Homes itself, was a very grassroots effort here, okay? When my daughter started Asher Homes in first grade a couple of years ago, one of the first questions she asked me was, why do they call it Asher Homes? The second question she asked me was, why, where the paintings on the walls come from? When I looked into it, I found out why it was called Asher Homes. It was originally, when I was doing research, it was called Robertsville 2. And the students said, we don't want that. We're not second to anybody. So they had a survey, and they went and the students themselves picked out the name for Asher Homes. Later on, when they hired Mr. Wells, who's here, and I want to thank him for being here, he came in and he created these murals. Not just him, but the students themselves created this. The people of this town created this. This is not a commercial enterprise that just went in and painted stuff on the walls. These are the efforts of the townspeople of this town to destroy these murals, which is exactly what was told to the Asbury Park Press, is that they wanted to paint over the murals, not to restore them. It is absolutely a disgrace. We don't destroy artwork in this country just for convenience. We don't burn books to clean a library. Okay? This is not how this country works. This was a grassroots effort to get this petition. When I printed the petition this morning, there was 1,100 names on it. When I left my office, there was another 50 names on it. Okay? This petition continues to grow. The people of this town want these murals to stay. They have to stay, and we will do what it takes to make them stay here. Okay? I just want to make that clear to this board, that to destroy these murals is completely wrong, cannot happen, and the people of this town will not let it happen. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Tracy?
Hi, I'm Tracy Goff, Ottawa Road. I wanted to read some notes from the petition. We have somebody, David Gluck, who is currently still in Morganville. He says, save those murals. They were my favorite part about school and inspired me to become an artist. Our petition has reached Dayton, Ohio, where Megan Moylan writes, I visited Asher Homes often and was always impressed with the artwork on the walls. I was invited there to be recognized for a Veterans Day ceremony, and all of the vets with me commented how cool the murals were and how they would have loved to have those in their own school as children. Please don't destroy a part of what makes Asher Homes such a great place for children. And a quote from North Carolina. I was a student at Asher Homes, and I am now a professional artist. The benefits of growing up around art are countless, not just for people like me who decide to live a life dedicated to art, but for others as well. I still remember the parrot I painted in the kindergarten hallway, and it breaks my heart that these murals are not seen as a gift that they are. Please do not paint over these precious works of art. Address damage by allowing current and future students to become artists themselves. It will surely support the learning outcomes in a place for the arts in a K-5 setting. The ultimate goal of art is to be seen and appreciated. The murals solidify this experience for our young people in a way that day-to-day instruction cannot. When I moved here in 2006, I took the opportunity to tour Asher Homes before my children actually attended. Most of you know I have 3 children who graduated Asher Homes. I have 3 children currently in Asher Homes, and one that will be starting Asher Homes next year. The murals impressed me. It made me feel like it was a warm and welcoming environment, different from the cold walls that I came from in New York. The questions that I want answered, Dr. Hibbs, is why are 2 people from your administration quoted in an email and the APP as saying that there is a plan to paint over the walls if you're saying that there's not? Also, if you're saying that the whitewashing is not true, can you tell me why Morel and Delfino students returned to school on the first day to white walls with their murals being painted over with no notice to the parents or the community? We found this out by chance, not because you told us, and we will save these murals.
Thank you.
David Wells.
First of all, I know there's a microphone. I never needed a microphone.
But you just need one for the tape. It won't be on the video.
Sir.
Pardon me?
It won't be on the video.
If I do it that way,
No, you can take it out of the stand, but
do I need one?
yes.
You can't hear me. This is all I wanted to say. Number one, I don't want to get mixed up in school politics. That's not my aim to be here. I had enough of that. The beauty of my life was the time I spent in Marlborough Township. I had the best kids, best parents, supportive people. I created this for the kids from then, for the future. It does not have my name on it. Anywhere in that school, you'll never see my name on it. That was not the point. The kids that helped me signed their name and dated it. I felt like they left something behind. I will tell you something. It was told to me in an email from someone on the administration that there was a plan to paint the entire school, and it was a done decision. That's when I got my back up, because this is still America, I think. We had a little boy named Adam Strassler. He asked me one day, could he paint a woodpecker? I said, Adam, draw it, sketch it out, you'll transfer it to the wall and date it. Beautiful job, right near my classroom. So I'd see it every day after lunch. A few years later, Adam died. I used to see it. Think, how could you paint over this? You can paint over history. It's the history of our school. It's nothing to do with David Wells. Nothing at all. I could care less about David Wells. It's just, it was a nice idea that the administration let me do, from our first principal, Doris Wadworth, that first tree, to Mr. DeFino, to Dr. Abbott, Dr. Gassworth. Everybody was just on a push to let it go. It was just a wonderful, supportive thing. Best parents in the entire world. That PTA, anything I asked for. And I did anything they asked for. It was very symbiotic. And that's all I want to say. I want to say that if anybody had ever reached out to me that said that the walls were damaged, I would have been there 5 years ago. But no one said a word. And after Dr. Abbott left, and the principals left that I knew, and all my friends, the teachers there, most of them are gone. There's only a handful. I thought to myself, I better not go back there anymore.
No, you can finish.
You can finish.
All you had to do was ask. I'm 67, but I got a lot of energy. It's yours.
Thank you. And once again, I also want to thank you for your dedication, once again, to the students and the District of Marlborough Township, sir.
Dr. Eng.
To follow such a careful presentation. My name is Raymond Ang. I'm at 12 Algonquin Drive in Marlborough. I'm here to speak about agenda item number 16 on the business agenda that deals with the provision for school monitors for certain events. Our understanding, this is just brought to attention of the heritage schools, the Hindi, Marlborough Hindi School and the Chinese schools at the Pino and Morale at the high school, middle school. You know, we're just as much concerned as you are about the security and safety of our students on the Saturday Heritage program, where we teach language and culture. And a major part of our curriculum, besides language, is the cultural heritage of where our ancestors came and where we came from. And part of this is teaching also the celebrating these festivals and customs of our families. And we're gratified that you could see that with respect to the normal operations of the school, that you're allowing us to use internal security. What a great concern to us is that for certain events, like our celebrations, like Chinese New Year and Diwali, you consider that, or it's being considered to require external security. At these family events where we're inviting families to join with our students to celebrate these festivals, it's all done by people associated with the school, getting family involved, getting the parents, grandparents to come celebrate with the children. And we don't feel that it's necessary to have outside security. The only outside people we invite are elected officials like the mayor, like the Board of Ed. And if there's a need for outside security for that, then we would be reluctant to agree not to invite outside people. But, you know, as far as we feel as normal operation for the school, there's no need for outside security. We have security people that are dedicated to safeguard the security of the school, and we would welcome a formalized program to go over the training and the qualifications for the in-house security. But for events celebrating our traditional customs and celebrations, inviting our family members to join us, I don't feel is really necessary to have paid outside security for these events, because our internal security people are well aware of who the family members are. They would recognize who are the outsiders, and they would be, I think, more effective in safeguarding the security and safety of the schools. Yeah, I think this is what is of concern to us is the added cost. We have Dr. Agarwal is going to speak later on about how important or how fragile our economics is in terms of the added costs affecting the quality of the school. The school are basically run as volunteer programs that dedicated, low-paid, well, they don't even get paid on a regular basis. This is done by volunteers, by the parents of the children. The parents, the people, the teachers are all concerned about the safety of the schools and have intruders from the outside. So we feel that with these special celebrations, there's no need for outside security. And so we ask you to reconsider the provisions that you're considering to have paid outside security for really a family operation. And so this is how we consider our normal school operations. It's operated for our students, it's managed by the parents, run by the parents on a volunteer basis, and we feel that outside security is not going to be really effective as our own internal personnel. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
May Yoon. How bad?
That was pretty good.
Good evening, Board and Dr. Hibb. Thank you for listening to us. I have some questions about the referendum, but I'll save that for another night, I guess, since we have our time limit today. The most pressing issue that I'm here to speak about tonight, I'm sorry, my address is 10 Gerard Street, is the item number 16 on the business agenda. I am the former principal of Monmouth Chinese School, and we operate out of Dugan Elementary. We've been there for over 40 years. And I want to stress that we take security, of the building seriously, because obviously the security of the building means security for our students and our volunteers. As Dr. Eng mentioned, we are a nonprofit, and I can only speak for ourselves, but we are struggling with lower enrollment every year, as I think most of our schools, even regular schools and other programs, are seeing. So we're having problems, making ends meet. We rely on our parents. We rely heavily on our volunteers to make sure that we can continue to provide the education and cultural programs that we feel are important to continue with our heritage, and we provide that to everybody in the community, anybody who wants to learn the language. Chinese New Year is, I think, the issue, and that's our biggest celebration. And I want to stress that it's not an unstructured event. A lot of planning goes into it, and if anyone's ever attended our events, you'll know that we meet everybody that comes through. Everybody needs to have a ticket. We're very, very secure about who attends the celebration, and like Dr. Eng says, and generally it's just family and friends. After the event starts, all the doors are locked. So we do work to make sure that the school building as well as our events are secure. And I implore the board to reconsider the additional fees or even for the external monitoring that you're proposing, and at a minimum sit down with the leaders of the schools to discuss a mutually beneficial resolution. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sarah Chrysler.
Hi.
You can take it out.
Take it out.
Thank you. Hi, I'm going to speak slowly. Sarah Chrysler, 1103 Roseberry Court. Good evening.
Hi.
I had to pick what I was going to talk about tonight. I had a lot of stuff going on. I appreciate you talking about Asher. That was one of my issues, so thank you very much.
No problem.
So imagine that you're starting a new and exciting job where the employer and your coworkers are all rumored to be fabulous. You're excited to learn new things, and you can't wait to start. You go to work the first day, a little nervous, but you survive. You even fly through the first week. Then you start your second week. Your boss gives you an assessment and rates your work. Mind you, it's the second week. It's not a big deal. You're trained for your job and you're learning a few new things, but slowly you're easing in. You still feel confident, sort of. The third week comes and you're slammed with new work. Learning new tasks, expected to present to your boss on his team on an almost daily basis. You're presenting material you're unfamiliar with at best, but nonetheless you try your hardest. Sometimes you give great presentations to them, and sometimes not so much. You're feeling deflated, and honestly, you can't keep up with the demands of your boss. This is how I can best equate my child and how he is doing in 4th grade. In the past 25 days, since last Friday, he has had 19 graded assessments, which include tests and quizzes and the supplemental category. I want to note that I included supplemental because that's 20%, whereas his quizzes are 25, and I find that very close. This is unbearable for any 9-year-old fourth grader to deal with. How can he be expected to excel when he has little to no time to digest what he's just been taught? This week, he'll have an additional 5 to add to that number. I was promised change last year, and I was led to believe we were moving in a different direction. I'm still looking for that change. Thank you.
Thank you.
Michelle Meyer?
Michelle Meyer, 1 Amagansett Drive. It feels like a lot like Groundhog Day being here again before you to discuss an issue that I thought we had put to rest last year. But here we go again. I came back tonight because I believe strongly in the need for the parents and teachers to have conferences, and I cannot allow this administration to once again try to dismantle it. Conferences are a vital part of the success of this school district. Last year I presented over 350 signatures on the petition indicating that not only I believed in the conferences, but also the feelings of fellow taxpayers, educators, and parents. When I received the emails from my children's schools last week, I was frustrated and confused as to the fact that despite leaving out the offensive language from last year, that the net effect was yet again the same. In getting a letter for conferences, the implied impact is that something is wrong with your child. Yet what is missed again this year is, in singling out certain children, is that all children can improve in school. All children need parent and teacher input to help them do as best as they can in their learning experience. Contact via email and telephone calls is not the same as a face-to-face meeting. There are very few times in the evenings that my thoughts go to you, Dr. Hibbs, or to this board. Yet one evening last spring, I couldn't help but think of all of you. It was when I was sitting outside the door of my son's classroom at Marlborough Elementary School, awaiting to be taken in by my son's teacher. As I sat in the hallway, I wished that all of you were there with me, and you could see what I saw. I actually thought about if I could videotape the whole experience for all of you. I felt that if you all saw what I saw, that you could not limit our access to conferences again. Yet I didn't realize at the time that what I was observing would be so short-lived and that I actually would probably need to videotape the scene for you. I watched that night as parents walked around the school, viewed their children's projects in the hallways, introduced themselves to their children's teachers in anticipation of their conferences, and saw the recognition in their parents' eyes that they felt comfortable with that teacher who was spending almost 7 hours a day with their child. I overheard parents talking about that night and what they saw and discussed about their children. I felt the personal connection between educators and parents that unfortunately in our technological world becomes secondary to less personal communications. I sat back and couldn't help but feel that this is what organized and scheduled conferences are about. Conferences keep everybody honest, so to speak. The needs of children who might not be deemed in a compromised category requiring a conference per se will have those needs, however small, addressed by parents and teachers at scheduled and organized conferences. A child, for example, this fall who is doing well in school will probably not get a fall conference. Yet even that child could benefit from a discussion between a parent and teacher, a discussion which will probably not happen this fall. All children can do better in school. Organized conferences are like protections for our children. It ensures that parents and teachers take that active role in the education of our greatest gifts. As taxpayers and parents, we have this right to have organized and scheduled conferences. As parents, we even have the right as well to hear that our children are doing well, so that our work in raising our children is reinforced as correct. I implore all of you to reconsider your stance on fall conferences and stop this grave injustice to our children. We all have the right to attend conferences with our teachers, and I would ask that you make that possible.
Thank you.
I can't understand the last name. Matthew? Brodsky. 4 Sycamore Court.
Okay.
Jen Wexler.
You moved my name. I know.
No, I did not. Would I do that to you?
Hi. Hi, Jen Wexler, 46 Damascus Drive. First of all, I just want to say that I was one of the students that painted the murals in Asher 32 years ago, and Mr. Wells was extremely important to me, and I'm really happy to hear that you're giving him a chance to work with the school again. He has a very special place in many of our hearts. Want to reiterate, I do believe conferences are an important aspect of school. However, we need to call and email a lot, and sometimes we have to be more proactive than a conference, but I do think that conferences are important. Right now where I am with school is a little bit concerned about students who may need some type of remediation due to ineffective teachers. So aside from speaking to the teacher, and aside from speaking with the principal, meeting with the principal, what is in place for parents who are faced with teachers for our children who are just not making the grade, for lack of a better term? When you have a classroom full of students and they're all doing poorly, in this type of district, that's not necessarily an indication of the student. Unfortunately, it may be an indication of what's going on from the teacher. So aside from the teacher, meeting with the principal, what other steps do we have? What other protection do we have? In addition, is it fair to have a classroom full of students who are not doing well or performing well? Is it fair to have them, have extra work, have extra, something in the summertime because a teacher didn't do what they needed to do throughout the course of the year? So that's my concern. What are we doing to protect students who maybe are not receiving the education that we hope that they were receiving? And it's not just 1 or 2 kids. We're talking about, 50% of a classroom, sometimes 100%. And this is a grave concern for me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Chowdhury.
Good evening. I'm Ved Chowdhury. I live at 22 Jackie Drive. I'm president of the Educators Society for Heritage of India. It is a non-profit organization that conducts the Marlborough Hindi School in the female school for the last 15 years or so. And we also conduct now for the last 6 years a summer school in the Marlborough Memorial Middle School for 4 weeks during the school hours. I greatly support the referendum.
Thank you.
Superintendent, and I have already voted by mail. So I thank you all for doing the great service to the community with keeping such our education in the schools that my children have gone through, and I greatly appreciate that. My concern at this point is, of course, about the school that we run, the cultural school, during weekends. It is basically as Dr. Ng and other speakers have spoken, volunteer-run program, non-profit program. I fully understand the concern the board has, and we have the same concern about the safety and security of the children in the school. But I also think that there is no one more concerned about the children's safety and security than the parents themselves. And we have been doing now for a couple of years, having parents come and be scheduled for every weekend to come and do the gate duty and be responsible for security. Especially on the occasions when there are all the parents invited, which is the Festival of Lights, which will be held on November 7th. And we'd like to welcome all of you. You're all invited to come to the Festival of Lights on November 7th. You'll be getting my email pretty soon. There's a Festival of Color in April or March, and then there's the final graduation ceremony in June. On these occasions, we invite all parents as well as siblings. So the attendance at that time would be greater than 150. But we think that we can manage that. We have been managing that very well. Everyone who comes is people from the community. We have great support from the community. But our finances are rather precarious, so that's why our concern. And we hope that you will reconsider that we'll be able to manage our safety and security through the parents' cooperation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mrs. Majonas, finally.
Carol Majonas, 5 Algonquin Drive, Marlboro, but you probably know that by heart.
Yes, I do know that.
I think it was last Friday, I received an email from my daughter. Ma, can you help? There's real trouble in Asher Homes. And she said, they're going to paint over my doggie. I had no idea what she was talking about. But she showed me a petition, etc. I sat on that Board of Education for 15 years. I know there's two sides to every story. When I left, after serving 5 terms, I chose not to go again because I believe you need a lot of parents on the board as well as other citizens. And at the time, there weren't that many parents. So I stepped back. My kids were out. It was time for someone else. And I vowed I was leaving it in good hands. I wasn't returning. I had no reason to come back. But the line was crossed when my daughter started crying. If there's one thing you don't do to a mother, it's make her child cry. She painted, she calls it a Dalmatian. It was a little doggy. It was black with pink spots. But for some reason, she thought it was a Dalmatian. And Mr. Wells told her that that was the cutest dog he had ever seen in his whole life, and apologized for not recognizing it as the Dalmatian that she called it. Her brother said, "What are you talking about? I did this such and such." He wasn't quite as concerned as my oldest one was. So I went to the website, I looked at some of the things. I still have a lot of contacts. I talked to some staff members. Okay, so tell me what the story is. Tell me what the story is. And they did. And it really got me to break the vow that I made, that I would leave it in the good hands of the people that sat here when I left. But this was the decision that broke my heart. You see here before you tonight parents who are in their 60s, teachers who are in their 60s, parents who are in their 30s and 40s. Their kids didn't paint it. Our kids did paint it. The kids who didn't paint it are still signing the petition. The kids who painted it are. It is part of our community, and everything needs to be done to preserve it. Once I read the few statements, and I was like number 150 or something, I said, okay, it's on. And I contacted, oh, I'm up to red already?
Yeah.
I contacted some people, and am so happy to hear, and Mr. Hibbs, Dr. Hibbs, excuse me, we shook hands, and you said that those murals will be repaired, and that they will not be destroyed. And I hold you to your word. Thank you.
And thank you for your time on the board.
One tiny thing you should know. Mr. Wells spent hours before school and after school, his own time, doing this work.
Thank you.
And now it's med time. Good night. Meds.
Dr. Agrawal. I thought you said meds, medication.
Good evening. Thank you for giving me the chance to speak here. And I'm here mainly for the item number 16. It's a really big concern for us. And there are two concerns I have. First of all, let me see the time of the board. I'm not repeating the same thing what Dr. Ng said and the Chinese principals and other people talked about. We have a similar concern or same concern what they talked about. So I'm not repeating these things. So I hope, first of all, this is so critical issue for us from finances point of view, and we don't see the value out of it, evident really. Because we have parents all the time, two parents are sitting on the door, people are walking around all the time, teachers, then we have teaching assistants who are like senior students. So we really take care of the security to our heart. So that's not really that we have any relaxing thing. And also, people, Dr. Ng and Dr. Chaudhary already spoke about structured and non-structured events. As far as I'm concerned, our events are all structured. We are not inviting anybody outside, except of course few of you who could be outside, really. Okay. Another thing is, for this kind of critical event, I would have been more prepared really. I want to be more prepared to give the letter to the superintendent or the board in advance, our concern, but we just found it out about this last Saturday. So I didn't have a chance to really prepare for this. So hopefully with this kind of critical events or critical issues, we are well informed, which is widely impacted. See, our budget is very, very tight. To get it, tell you the truth, it's about more than half of the budget of the Marlborough Hindi School is going with the custodian fee. That's the situation. So we cannot really even afford or think about it, adding any more cost like this. So thank you so much. I hope you reconsider it and not vote for it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kara Zlotnick.
Does that work?
Yep.
I'm Kara Zlotnick. I'd prefer not to give my address if that's okay. I wrote it down. I'm a practicing psychologist in the area. I don't really make that information public.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, you can hear. Is that good?
That's good.
I'm a parent of boy-girl twins in the 4th grade. I also have a daughter in the 1st grade who just entered the public school system this year. My children attend Dugan, and I have the highest regard for their teachers, Principal Hendrickson, and the education that they're receiving. I'm also a practicing child psychologist in the community. I conduct regularly psychological, educational, and neuropsychological evaluations, as well as provide therapy for the full range of childhood diagnoses. I'm speaking once again today, as I did a year ago, as a concerned parent and member of the community regarding parent-child conferences, parent-teacher conferences. Parent-teacher conferences are designed as an opportunity for parents and teachers to communicate and collaborate on students' progress. I believe that it's in the best interest of all students that every parent be offered a face-to-face conference to be updated about their child's academic, behavioral, social, and emotional functioning. If a child is experiencing difficulties in any of these areas, their parents need a parent-teacher conference. And I assume that these are the children who are getting the conferences this fall, which, as they should be. However, how about the average student? It would be beneficial for that parent to know what their child's learning style is like, or what areas they struggle in. They should learn how they can work with their children to raise their grades, reach their potential, or just find out that maybe they already are reaching their potential and don't need to be pushed further. And what about the above average student? Those in our high classes, our gifted programs, our enrichment programs. Do we think that these children do not have issues that need to be addressed and discussed with the teachers? How about the children who just entered public school, like my 1st grader? Of course I check the parent portal. And yes, I trust her teacher to notify me if there's a large issue. However, I want to hear from her teacher face to face how she's adjusting. Is she making friends? Is she participating in class? Is there something I can do at home to help augment her school experience? No child is perfect. Every child can benefit from parent-teacher collaboration and communication. Every parent needs to be informed of their child's strengths and weaknesses. Regardless of academic progress, parents need to be informed of how their children are doing in terms of socialization, self-esteem, participation, attention, organization, and so forth. A teacher's verbal input outside of our grades and assessments, as well as parent, teacher, and child collaboration, is integral in helping every child to succeed to the best of their ability. It's my understanding that parents who are not offered conferences could schedule one, but it may be through a phone call or email exchange. I appreciate the value of technology in our schools and support their use. Chromebooks, Google Documents, Blogster, typing training, educational computer programs, online behavioral systems, and reading logs. However, we live in a world where most people recognize and are trying to teach their children that they should get off their iPhones, their iPads, their iTouches, and teach and have real interpersonal interactions. We're not doing this by email. Yet our own schools are saying email and phone is an appropriate form of communication for our most important conversations about our children. Email and phone interactions lose much of what is needed in social interactions. Tone, emotion, facial expressions, body language, and misunderstandings often take place as a result. In addition, we lose the context of our children's environment. We need to be in the classroom where they spend the majority of their day and experience it, if only for a few minutes, to see what their daily life is like.
I need you to finish up there.
Providing teachers with only 2 days to complete their conferences neglects the fact that many parents want to speak with their children's teachers. And I implore the board to reconsider the decision and let parents and teachers communicate to help all of our children reach their full potential.
Thank you.
Jess Smith.
I'm Jessica Smith, Ottawa Road North. I went to Asher Holmes for 5 years. I was always the klutzy kid who always stared around the hallway at the artworks. And I would always ask, whose names are those on the wall? And I remember I was in 5th grade waiting outside for the teacher to come to class because she went to get copies of the paper for me because I lost mine. And I kept on asking her, who's this kid and why does it say 78 on the wall? And she had no answer for me, and she always told me, go ask the art teacher, because he would have the answer, and he would tell me where the art came from. But then, a few days ago, when it was late at night, I was about to go to sleep so I could get up early for school. And my mom told me that they were going to paint over the artwork at Asher Holmes, that she got an email from one of the people there. And I kind of didn't realize that they were actually going to do it. I thought she was just joking or something. So I didn't take it seriously. But then I just laid in bed, just remembering all the good times that my friends and me had there, and how I always used to bump into people just staring at the artwork and asking what that was and what that was. And at lunch, when we were walking into lunch, how they had those people posing on the walls, and in the it was right before the bathroom, and I would always ask, who painted these and stuff like that. And it was just a big part of my elementary school experience. And I really loved staring at the art the whole time. And I would hate for these things to get destroyed, because in middle school, in 7th grade, we had Family Consumer Science program, which got taken away when I was in 8th grade. And that really hit me hard, because when I was in that class, it showed me how much I loved cooking. And I tried out for the program at Freehold Borough, the Culinary Arts program, which I made it in, and I am currently in now. And it just showed me my love for cooking. And now that they're going to take away the arts or whatever they're doing with art, or it could make or break someone. And it just teaches people who they want to be. So I would hate for these artworks to get destroyed for the little kids who need them.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else in public wish to address the board? We're out of names on the clipboard. Just need you to sign the clipboard.
Just say no. These list of questions came in at 5:50.
I know, I told him that already.
Okay, then I responded back saying, I'll get back to him tomorrow morning.
He told me he's gonna ask a couple more then.
Okay. My fingers are weak.
Edwin Madari, 2 Regal Drive, Morganville, New Jersey. President, members of the board, Dr. Hibbs, and administration. 3 questions from me tonight regarding the financial and business operations matters. Item 12 on page 9, regarding the 3-year comprehensive maintenance plan. How will this plan be affected by the $26 million referendum? Has a similar plan been submitted for previous years? If not, why not? If yes, how come there are $26 million worth of level 9 category maintenance items? Did the previous plans include these $26 million level 9 items? Where can I get a copy of this plan and the previous ones? My next question is regarding school monitors. It's on page 16, I'm sorry, page 11, item 16. I am not associated with any schools. I'm an independent individual, a public voice in the town. Regarding the school monitors at certain events, more oversight and more government is and was never a solution, and it never worked. So I urge the board members to vote against it. If you are going to vote in favor of it, please state your reasoning. I would like to hear it. And my last question, from Policy Development and Community Relations, regarding Policy 5756, reiterating not to burden the administration with the determination what the student or the parent has done. And like all other policies, if this policy is being accepted from the so-called reputed source, is the only reason, then it defeats the very purpose of home rule. So requesting for a discussion and an opinion of all the board members. Thank you.
Anyone else in the public? Sure, sir.
And Charlie, you?
Yes.
Oh, wait.
Thank you. Good evening. So I'm the principal from the Fidelity Chinese School. We use the facility at the Marlboro Middle School every Saturday, and we are a nonprofit organization. I'm here to talk about item number 16, which is the provision for the school monitoring systems. And so as you guys know, we are a nonprofit organization, and every week we do have 2 person in our school parents as part of the security monitoring program. So they will walk around the hallway watching the kids in the hallway or anyone else in the building that's coming in and out of the building. And we do have a major event each year, which is the Chinese New Year. And in that event, we sell tickets to those events, to the parents, to the family of our school systems. And we also have security for those events as well. Not to repeat everything what others have said previously, but just want to reiterate that we would like to the board to reconsider of this new provisioning. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else in the public wish to address the board in any yet? Seeing none, Dr. Sweetie, I just want to address a couple of things real quick. Board members will discuss item 16 when we read the next set of resolutions, so all the board members will have a chance to comment and discuss on that. I will comment at that time as well, but I will answer a couple questions that were asked about that are just yes or no questions. The security monitors the board will provide will not be armed. You asked if they were armed. You asked what changed. What changed was a lot of things. The big thing that changed was Sandy Hook massacre. If the board members that are still on the board remembers, after Sandy Hook massacre, we were in a room, I forgot what school we were in.
Asher Holmes.
Asher Holmes. We were in Asher Holmes. And in their auditorium, and every seat was filled. Every seat was filled, including, I don't know if our mayor is still here, but our mayor was there as well. Those people came to, those residents came to this time demanding changes in security from this board. They came demanding armed security police officers at each building. The mayor at that time spoke to the board and guaranteed to the board his help in accomplishing that. The board knew it had a vision of security. It had to start somewhere. We're at a different place now. It took us a while to get where we are, where we no longer require the armed security. I'm not going to go into what changed or what we did, because we don't talk about security in public. We don't talk about the things that changed in the district that no longer required us to have armed security at the doors. I'm not going to talk about that. But you asked what changed. That's what changed. And our security is an ongoing process. We talk about security in closed session because we don't sit here telling you what our deficiencies are and how you can get into our buildings and how you can do damage or you can't. We don't do that in public. That's what changed. And we'll have the rest of that conversation when we get to item 16. I'm sure all the board members would like to say something on it. But I just want to let you know what changed. The board takes security very seriously. And our objective is to keep our students safe in every way that we can. And it is evolving for us. We learn new things every day. We take new actions every day. We have security professionals. One of those here with us tonight, Rob Delaney, is our head of security. And the board works on recommendations from head of security down through administration, trickles down to the board. Because the everyday operation of the buildings is through administration. And don't forget, we have our principals, we have our staff, we have our custodians, we have very dedicated people that work for us as well. But the board, this board, still wants security monitors at our front doors to protect our students at all times. So they'll board members comment, get to number 16. Sir.
Okay. Okay. So I'm going to go from top to bottom and answer the questions that I can answer right now. So one of the first questions was firearms, and I think you took the first one, sir, and I think the rest of those questions that were asked out of our first questioner will be answered when you answer or when we discuss. So do they carry firearms and what is their role? The role is going to be of security. That's what they do, to make sure that everything that happens in our buildings is safe and secure. Next was all about park, and I don't think we had any questions. We will still have a reflective response on park. We will not be utilizing a sit and stare approach as some places do. The state, we have superintendent's roundtable meetings monthly. We were asked respectfully to obviously not do sit and stare, even though they recognize they can't tell us what to do. We have no intent on utilizing a sit and stare philosophy, nor did we last year. So the county superintendent has asked us to make every effort to encourage parents to have their children take the test, but it obviously is a parent's choice on whether or not they want their child to participate or not, and we will honor that. Okay, referendum. Can you find more? Can you find more information? So when you navigate our referendum tab, on the referendum tab, we are going to have a contact button that contacts us. There's usually a faster turnaround, and I think Mrs. Walsh turns around questions. Take it.
Can't hear, Liz.
Yesterday, after Cindy heard from the architect, she gave me the answer. I did reply before 4:15 to that email, and I do have a printed copy of it.
Okay.
So I'll be happy to share that at the end of the meeting.
So if you didn't get the response that you're looking for, we're happy to show you what that response was. It's usually a faster, we usually do a very tight turnaround on that. Sometimes we may need to look into the answer because there's a lot of really good questions that we would need to research back to our professionals. So if you didn't get the question that you want answered, leave it with Mrs. Walsh and she'll be happy to get that to you. Absolutely. So on here, there's a contact page. There are the architect's drawings, none of which will talk about security, as President Lansky just mentioned. There's our fact sheet and flyers that went to the community. There is a list of frequently asked questions. And this is part of your, I think, second embedded question. What happens as questions get asked we add them to the frequently asked questions. So when a great question comes up, we add it to that FAQ. There are the press releases, the newsletters, the PowerPoint presentation, the comprehensive study executive summary is there. We can't put the whole 72-page on there because it has schematics, it has blueprints, it has all kinds of security issues that we would not want to divulge. The upcoming events, and then voting information as well. So let me go back here to my questions. So if you needed something that you don't see, just let us know through that contact form, and if we can get that information and it's okay to give, we're happy to look for anything else that you would want. And I think the last one was the air conditioning. So when the board looked at the concept of air conditioning, as I talked about in the presentation, there was a price tag associated with it, as there would be with anything. So if you think of a gradient of 100%, to just do the H and the V, it was 80% of the cost. Do the H, the V, the A, and the C, it was 100% of the cost. So for essentially a 20% difference in the cost, the air conditioning was added, and the board they all discussed this, and then the board agreed to add the air conditioning component, because if we were going to do this big renovation to our schools, the thought process would be to do it in what they considered the right way. So this year, you know, if you were in our buildings in September, it was upwards of 95 degrees. It was scorching hot. At the end of school, anytime in June is also hot, and sometimes in May. So that was how the board got to the air conditioning. If we just talk about the murals, Tracy asked, you know, was there a specific plan? There was no specific plan. When I do a plan, and if you want to understand exactly what I mean by a plan, please take a look at our website, because last year, it might be too soon for Bonnie, but we talked about a very specific park plan. Lake Park or not Lake Park, we got every one of our children that was going to take that assessment ready to see and to know and to be able to be successful in navigating that test. It included about 80 videos. It included professional development that was given to staff and students. There was no plan for painting the murals at Asher. A plan would have included the purchase of paint. The plan would have included what are we specifically doing. There was no specific plan. Were there discussions on what to do with the upkeep of all of our buildings? Absolutely. And an honest answer is that when Michael told me what did you tell me this morning, essentially that David was on Channel 12 and offered his services, one of the first phone calls I made today, this morning, was to David, taking him up on his offer to helping restore the past, which is what we're going to do.
Can I just add one thing?
Sure.
On the murals, I would appreciate it, and it would, all the board members appreciate it. I see a lot, I don't answer on social media. I don't think it's appropriate for the board to go back and forth on social media, but I see very often the board's doing this, the board's doing that, the big bad board is painting the murals. Dr. Hibbs never reported back to the board his final plan. No board members here.
It wasn't a board decision.
It wouldn't normally be a board decision. We don't vote on what color the walls are and what are you doing. He would have told us, because he had told us he's working on how he's going to handle the murals in that building. But he never reported back to the board. No board member on here ever approved or voted on or discussed at this table how we're going to paint over murals. But I saw all over social media. What is the board thinking? Why is the board doing this? And how come?
Why would the murals go over at Morale?
Well, you hooked into your question. I'm just answering. That has nothing to do with the board either. You can't go back and forth. You can't go back and forth. You can't go back and forth. I'll let him answer your question. He will answer your question. He'll answer your question. Sure. That was one of her questions.
Yeah, I didn't get the opportunity to go all the way through yet. Yeah. So why do we do it? Because certain murals were just beyond repair, and that's why certain ones were painted over and certain ones were kept. So if you've walked around Marlborough Elementary, you know Harvey did a fantastic job in repainting the entire building. Our buildings had not been painted in a maintenance rotation in a very long time, and some of the areas were simply beyond repair. So if you're talking about Robertsville and you're talking about Morrell, yes, absolutely. Certain ones that were well beyond repair were painted over, and others were not. They were kept and they were framed around. That is an honest answer. That's not something that I would report out to the board or report out to the public. That's just simply, we need to keep our buildings looking pretty for our students. And students shouldn't have to walk around and see chip paint everywhere. They just shouldn't. So as part of the comprehensive plan, that's what we're doing. Now, when we realized, how important it is about the paintings at Asher, and then David offered his services, the plan right then was to take him up on his services and honor the wishes of the community of Asher and others. I'm not quite sure how more responsive I or the board could be, and it really wasn't the board. So today, when I realized that he offered his services, he was the first phone call I made. I'm not on social media. Things certainly get back to me. However, I have a tough skin, and it is what it is. However, when I realized that was the phone call that I made in a reflective manner, because that's how I lead. I don't unilaterally dig my heels in if there's another option that makes more sense.
I'll just add as well, the board members have email addresses. One of the things that I was very happy about when I got on the board, before I got on the board, there were no email addresses for board members. You didn't know how to contact the board member. You couldn't contact the board member. You maybe sent a letter and maybe it got to us, I don't know. But now that we all have email addresses, and we fought hard to get that, and it was before Dr. Hibbs' time.
Yeah, Michael, you and I fought for that.
Fought very hard for that. So, and I can tell you, in my 10 years being president of the board, I get back to everybody probably the same day, even though I'm running a business in my real life full-time. So I didn't get back to the 2 emails that came about, because they were asking us how to vote for this thing, because the board members haven't talked about it yet. And I can respond back to you on behalf of the board when the board members have talked about it and deliberated on something, but I can't answer how we're going to vote on number 16 in an email, because we haven't spoken about it till tonight. So those 2 emails will get answered, I'm sure, when we talk over 16. But feel free anytime to email the president of the board or the superintendent if you have a question if something is true or not, because you'll get an answer. You'll get an answer in writing. So.
I do have an answer in writing.
Okay.
It says there's a
It can't go back and forth.
And I'll give it to you. I'll forward it to you.
There can't be back and forth.
From the principal of the school.
It doesn't matter because
Trey, you have to stop. We can't go back and forth. You can talk in the second public session if you wish.
all I can say is this. So as the person who leads the school district, I have to be mindful about what change we make and how we make it. So we had something that was very important to the community. You then formed the petition and spoke. And then I reached out to David, who gave up a lot of his life, and David today said that he'd be happy to help us restore it. And the response is, we're going to make sure that we try to upkeep the murals. Not quite sure what more to say, because at the end of the day, we're going to keep and upkeep the murals. So I'm going to put that one to bed for me, because I don't know what more you can say. There was a reflective response that was made to the needs of the community. So I'm going to move on from that one.
You can't go back and forth. Can't go back and forth.
We talk about assessments. That's something that came. There wasn't really a specific question there, but what I will respond is this. When we looked at the grade books last year of our teachers, there were a lot of times there were 4 and 5 grades across an entire semester. So what we did was we formed a grading committee that was comprised of teachers and administrators, of reading specialists and math specialists, and we jointly decided to look at our gradebook minimums along with weighted percentages. So at the end of the day, I can tell you physically that, or I can tell you quantifiably from my point of view, 4 and 5 grades in a gradebook is not a fair representation of a child. So last year, you could have had, let's just take tests. In some subjects, they were worth 60% of a child's grade, and there would have been 1 test in the bucket. That means that 1 assessment, 1 test, would have counted 60% of a child's grade. Now that can work really in the favor of a child, or that really cannot work in the favor of a child. And when that kind of a practice exists, we address it, because our goal is to make sure that our children have the best opportunities. So when you look at 19 assessments or 19 grades in a grade book over 25 days, well, an assessment is something that's graded. Can't go back and forth. But it's something it could be a test, it could be a quiz, it could be anything in the supplemental bucket. It doesn't matter. Anything that enters a grade book, what that means is that there's an assessment per day. Yes, there is. Absolutely. Do we all get assessed on a daily basis? We absolutely do, 100%. There are certain things that, from a philosophy that, and I don't mean this disrespectfully, that we are a little behind the times on. Full day K. We are 10 years behind other districts that have taken this maneuver and have done this for children. Grading is exactly the same way. When you look at other districts, having 10 to 15 in a marking period per subject is just simply the norm. Just simply the norm. As far as conferences go, okay, we did, Michelle, we did absolutely, you were here last year. What I can say to you is this. Conferences were negotiated. That's the first thing, okay? The specific language that exists in our current contract they are based upon student need, not parent request. So a teacher has the ability of looking at a child and deciding whether or not during our conference time that there is a face-to-face meeting. Now, there's nothing I can do about that. Absolutely nothing. What I can do is this. And I won't tell you how to feel because that's not what I'm going to do. You can reach out to any teacher in this district at any time, and if you want a face-to-face meeting, you can have it. Okay? Reach out to your child's teacher. If you'd like to have a phone conference, you can have that as well. Reach out. Reach out on a Monday, reach out in June, reach out in July. It doesn't matter when you reach out to me. They will always respond to you. Not July, they're not here, but you understand my point. 100% our teachers will be responsive to that. And that happens all the time. At Old Middle, anyone who contacts Mrs. Nowacki and says, I'd like a meeting with this team and this quad, that meeting is set up on a prep and teachers meet with parents to discuss the needs of children. 100%. That it's negotiated language. So to come here and say to the board, you need to unilaterally stop this process, they don't have the ability of doing that. If they looked at me and said, Dr. Hibbs, change it right now, and then I gave an edict saying everybody in district is going to meet with all these people during conference nights, there would be a grievance because I would violate the contract. That's what would happen. So what you'd be better served to do, I'm not telling you what to do, is to simply speak that you don't like it and the board will hear it like you did, and they will take that into consideration when the board negotiates the contract. That will end this year. But I can't go back and forth. Okay? So I want you to understand very clearly, you want to talk to a teacher, that will absolutely happen. If you believe that face-to-face is so much better than a phone call, that's your feeling. I don't feel that same way. And I'm not telling you you're wrong, I'm just saying I feel differently. I work an hour and a half from home, and when I have to call one of my children's teachers, which ends up being my job as Dr. Hibbs, I pick up the phone or I shoot an email. Now for me, I get exactly what I need out of that. I understand your point in a face-to-face meeting, you look them in the eye, you can still have that. Reach out to your child's principal and explain what you need, okay? But there's nothing that this board can do at this moment about conferences. Jen? So I would simply encourage you to follow chain of command, and the end of that chain of command would be me. So we have not spoken about anything specifically, so you follow your chain, and starting with the teacher, if you have any form of a concern, and then reach out to the principal, and if that has not happened, if it's a specific curricular issue, you can then hit a supervisor or Mr. Balone. And at that point, if it's not a supervisor or curricular issue, you can reach right to me, and I'll be happy to help you with it, whatever I need to help you with. You can email me. Absolutely. Okay? Mr. Midari, you had a couple questions. Sind, can you talk about how our three-year comprehensive is affected by the referendum?
It is not. The three-year comprehensive plan, what the board actually approves is a state-approved form, and what it does is it lists all the systems that are prescribed by school districts. And all we do is fill in the numbers, the dollar amounts that we've spent last year for 14-15, what's budgeted for 15-16, and what's proposed for 17-16-17. It does not identify things, but as far as what this would impact the referendum, no, they're two different things. This is maintenance things that we do on a regular basis. What we're doing in the referendum is large ticket items that we're replacing. The HVAC, the single pane windows, those big projects. It's not the little projects that we do every year to maintain the buildings.
Cindy, has a similar plan been submitted in previous years?
We do it every year. We're required by statute to do this.
So why are there still $20 million worth of improvements or $26 million worth of improvements?
Because the facilities have outlisted their useful life. When you have boilers that are as old as I am, which is 59 years old, they need to be replaced.
Is there any confidentiality with those previous ones? Could a
You could get them.
Okay. Mr. Madari, if you'd like to have a copy of the previous ones, we can make them available to you. Absolutely. As far as the school monitors go, you urge the board to reconsider. And for policy 5756, you talked about the not burdening. We thank you for your comments. Those are your three. Okay. And I think that takes me through my questions. Sir.
Okay, very good. We're going to move on to page 5, Financial and Business Operations Matters. We have 18 resolutions on page 5, page 14, but I'm going to ask now if we have any changes.
Usually we don't, but I'm waving because we do.
Okay.
Okay, on page number 7. The date for Mrs. Vecchio's conference, this is what happens when you cut and paste. It should be dated January 19th, 2016, the second one.
Okay.
I'm sorry, what are we looking at? What number?
Second one? Okay.
Her second travel, the date changes, January 19th, 2016. And on page number 9, page number 9, I'm sorry. The second category where it says IDEA preschool, the carryover money, the account code should be 2253 200 300, and it's consultants, not non-public provider. Dollar amount stays the same.
You good?
That's it.
Okay, page 5. Debbie, am I reading, please?
Sure. Financial and business operations matters. The superintendent of schools submits the following resolutions for approval. 1, transfers. 2, list of bills. 3, secretary monthly reconciliation reports. 4, travel. 5, travel. Joanne Luridell. 6, harassment, intimidation, bullying report, HIB. 7, award of merit pay, 2015-16 school year employment for superintendent of schools. 8, approval of contract resident consultants. 9, acceptance of child assault prevention grant for the 2015-16 school year. 10, violence and vandalism report. 11, appropriation of 2014-15 IDEA basic and preschool carryover. 12, comprehensive maintenance plan. 13, acceptance of non-public technology initiative allocation. 14, non-public school requests for technology under the NJ non-public technology initiative program. 15, authorization for MRESC to develop 2015-16 school year contract document for non-public school nursing services. 16, approval of proposal for provision of school monitors at certain events. 17, resolution authorizing participation in the Middlesex Regional Educational Services Commission, New Jersey State approved co-op pricing system number 65 MCES CCPS. Read on it. Small ticket lease program, Middlesex Regional Educational Services Commission bid number 13/14-23, lessee Marlborough Township Board of Education. 18, state contract purchases. I so move.
Thank you, Debbie. Seconded by Victoria. Okay. Discussion on financial and business operations matters. Dara.
I have a quick question. What exactly is this park data report thing that it's number 4, it's under travel that we're sending somebody to?
Which one?
Number 4 at the bottom.
Where it says staff.
Where it says,
Page 7.
it's Carol Vecchio. I'm just curious why we're spending more money on park. I mean, it's a small amount, and
Sure.
I understand that.
No,
but
what
I'm
you're gonna
just
do is-
curious
so
why we're
this is-
doing this again, especially with all the stuff going on with park.
Well, There is talk about park, and people have strong feelings both for and against park. However, right now, it is the state assessment that we use, and Mrs. Vecchio is going to go where they're going to train her in that to talk about the information that is gleaned from park. Because there's different reports that are coming out with park than were for NJ Ask. So it's so that we can look at the information and try and glean useful tidbits on how to drive instruction.
And they should have the data by then. That's the
Yes.
Okay.
They're saying late November/December, right?
Okay.
Mr. Blum? Okay, 3 through 8 for December. High schools were disseminated, I believe, even today, weren't they?
Yeah. There was
said there'll be
something out
less than a
on
month
Park
for
today.
the parents.
Yes, there was
something out on Park today.
there was some NJEA responses today on park data.
Karen, back on, you have to wait for second public sessions. You have to wait.
Well, is this supposed to?
Is that a serious question?
No. The question was, is it supposed to drive instruction for?
The question
For
from
this year.
Mrs. Ennie is it supposed to drive instruction for this year?
For, this year.
Okay,
Next year.
What I would say is this, absolutely not. And you give me any data in December, can it be meaningful data? Absolutely, it really can. Will we utilize that data to the best of our ability? Yes, we certainly will. Is getting that data in December anywhere near effective for school districts? Absolutely not. Now, they are promising that the data next year, I've heard, will actually be available, I believe, by the end of July, early August. Give me a nod for that, Mr. Blum? June, actually. June, okay. So we'll have to wait to see what that actually brings. Data in June, actually, you can look at and look at trends. You can look at positive growth. You can look at perhaps gaps where you can actually do something by grouping children. You know, December is hopelessly optimistic to think that you're going to make it that. Mrs. Ennie.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, anybody else on financial and business?
No.
Bonnie?
I'm going to tackle 16.
Okay, I need your mic, I couldn't hear you.
I'll get to the mic, hold on one second. Okay, here we go. Number 16. School monitors. By the way, school is spelled incorrectly, just as a point of reference.
I don't see a C.
Schul. Here is, first of all, I don't have the paperwork on the regulation. I don't know where it was, so I couldn't find it. I'm sure there was a discussion last week about it, and I know I spoke to Cindy. We have a policy for facilities usage. We have a contract with the school monitors, which the board approved, and we had a discussion before the board approved it and before it was negotiated. Those two items alone have to give the administration guidance to form a regulation. It is up to the administration to then write the regulation, and Ray, you understand this, to write the regulation that governs the district using these two documents. And they have to do it with the overall guidance that we have set forth, which is, the other piece of it is our security. And as Michael has said very eloquently, we have gone down a path which is not today, and it wasn't yesterday, but this is years in the making, and millions of dollars in the making, multiple millions of dollars in the making. And because of this, this is now our regulation that the administration has proposed. The problem that I have with it being on the agenda is that the board really should not be voting on this. The board really should not be part of this. This is an administrative decision. And I'm going to go backwards in this discussion. When the board went down the road of changing its policy and regulation binder, so to speak, using Strauss Esme as its guide, The reason that the regulations came to the board was because we were changing everything. We were changing our policies and we were changing our regulations. And in the discussions with Dr. Hibbs, we thought because it was only him and I doing this, that everything should come to the board at the time. And a lot of the people on this board now were not the people at the time on the board. And we thought we should bring everything to the board to familiarize the people at the time with what was going on, so that there could be discussions about what he and I were doing. And that's why regulations were coming to the board. When it was finished, in discussions with Dr. Hibbs, I recommended him, being very familiar with doing this, because I had done this once before with Freehold Regional, when I sat on Freehold Regional, that regulations should no longer come to the board, because that was really an administrative function. It was not a board function, because what regulations are the way the board, it was the way the administration should run the school district. The policies are what we do. It is our directives. It is how we want the school district to run. It is based in law and the way we see how we want the school district to function. It is then the regulations that the administration should then figure out how they, within contracts and the everyday runnings of the buildings, should then write the regulations in order to make this district function. And that's their job, not our job. It's like painting the walls. It's like telling teachers, bring number 2 pencils to school, wearing blue on certain days. And yes, you can pay money to wear blue jeans on Fridays, or no, you can't have pink hair or blue hair like I do, or do whatever they want to do as far as the regulation. I didn't even notice. You didn't even notice I had pink hair. And do the things that they do. So I've gone through this because so when I vote that I'm present but not taking a vote, I want everybody to truly understand why I am doing that, because I am objecting to the fact that this is on an agenda. It does not belong on the agenda. I agree with this wholeheartedly, that this should be done, but I don't agree that this has to be on an agenda. This is an administrative function, and this belongs in the hands of the administration, not in the hands of the board.
Okay. Thank you, Bonnie.
Can we ask
Can
the
I just
lawyer?
ask?
Yeah, you're here.
Yes, please.
Get a punt.
Kate's.
Kate on the spot.
Mrs. Rosenthal is actually correct. In fact, the board is a policy-making body, and that is what you are tasked with by statute. She is further correct in that the regulations, generally your policies should have a inclusion of, we direct the administration to promulgate a regulation to fulfill what this policy is meant to address. That being said, I have seen a number of districts bring those regulations to the board, not necessarily for approval, but for review. And what the board would be looking for is to ensure that the regulations do not contradict the policy or the intent of the policy, that they don't undermine the policy in any fashion. So yes, there are regulations that are brought forward for informational purposes. Certainly you are absolutely permitted to ask questions on them. The basis for them, that's exactly what you should be doing, making sure that the basis for those decisions, those administrative decisions, are solid. You have your answers, your questions answered on why those decisions were made. So but they're not they're not voted on.
Okay, so at our previous meeting, you did bring to us your intentions.
For these, absolutely.
For these, absolutely. And you're saying that the administration has the ability to implement this on their own. Per Mrs. Rosenthal, I agree with what you're saying, Mr. Rosenthal was saying. So we can pull number 16 from this and let administration follow through.
Okay.
All right, so I'm gonna move to pull number 16 from the agenda. What? I can, what? I can,
Or Dr. Hips can administrate it, not what you think.
They can explain that
So-
pulling it does not mean it's not
yeah.
going through.
So to explain, pulling it does not mean it's not just, not removing it from happening. Pulling means that the authority rests in administration.
So what I will do is I will sit down with this, and then we'll look at the regulation. That's what we'll do.
So can you give me the policy number that this regulation would be?
Related to?
Yeah.
I'm sorry? Related to?
Facility use.
Facility use, right?
It's a
Can you
facility
send
use
to us
policy.
for the
Give me a sec.
policy on this with number, we want to take a look?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you need a motion to pull?
I have to ask the reader and let him.
Use of school facilities, correct?
Yeah.
7510.
That's a policy number, right? Yes.
That's the policy number. So that would be,
And there-
the regs would be the same.
Correct, and there may be, it may cross policies as well. If there's
So
a
the-
separate security policy or a separate.
So, yeah, Dr. Hart, so what we'll do is we'll sit down, we'll take a look at the existing policy, make sure there's nothing in that policy that would contradict what we're looking at here, and then look at the regulation. And then let's make sure that we do a cross-search to make sure it doesn't intertwine anywhere else, just like Kate just mentioned.
Dr. Gibbs, is there an attached regulation to the, I don't have my computer in front of me.
There is.
Can you go to the reg and actually?
Nope, I'm sorry, there is no attached regulations.
So policy is the governing piece.
Yes.
The reg is up to you to make. We don't have a recommendation from Strauss Esme of how to write the reg.
No.
That's up to you.
Yes.
Or that's up to us.
But I
as the
think
board.
you do have something.
Yeah, this is what we.
Yes, we have a framework.
Yeah.
We just, I think what Dr. Hart is saying is that typically, when you do Strauss, there's a template that you follow, and you can modify left or you can modify right. We don't have that, so to speak.
Okay.
Okay.
So, a question.
Sure.
So, we have a policy number, just mentioned here. So, we have a regulation for security and for the safety for the facility use. Based on the policy, you will have the regulation on this too, right? We cannot say regulation, it just, based on, do we have the formal regulations corresponding to the policy number? That's my question.
It will correspond to the 7510,
We already,
the use of school facilities. And that's already on the books, that's already live.
Yeah. Then what's the, okay,
7510.
that's policy, what about regulation?
There is no existing regulation. That's where we'd have to create that.
they have.
They will create the regulation.
Well, they have a Strauss-Esme regulation.
No, what
No,
they
no.
have.
No,
What did you say you had? A framework. That's
Yes.
sorry, misspoke,
Okay.
framework.
And as Bonnie has said, and Kate, the regulation is brought to the board to, not to vote on.
Yes.
But as information.
Well, we already have something that Cindy has already given out that she uses, that is a facilities usage
Well,
form
we
that
have
she
a form,
used.
yes, and you approve the rates every year and stuff. So we do go through that, but that's a rate issue, that's a money issue to increase.
But that would be in,
It could all be part of.
right, but you could look at Freehold Regional's facility usage regulation.
Right.
And use that as a framework.
Okay, Debbie's in waiting.
So, as Cindy said, this deals with a rate issue, and I thought that's why it was coming to the board, and I understand we are a policy-making board, like Bonnie and Kate said. Also, when the regulations started coming to the board at first in public, it was not just to come so we could hear it, not just educational and making us more knowledgeable, it was also for the transparency of the public. And I appreciate something like this being here, because I don't appreciate any boards, not ours, not just ours, I don't appreciate any other boards, because we're very transparent to just pull out a meeting in the summer and let's make a change and, wash our hands of it, and by the time you come back, it's too late. So I do appreciate this being here for our knowledge, for transparency. I understand what you said, Gabe. But I wanted to put it out there that this does change a rate that we have discussed.
But this not gonna, in a further meeting. That would have been presented us at a further meeting, the rates. This is not,
The building use rates is what I'm talking about.
we weren't approving them tonight.
No.
Okay, I understand, but if this goes through with administration or with the board, whichever, if we pull it, it's you
Yeah.
guys. So if this goes through, when does this begin? Immediately?
Yes.
Immediately.
But we'd
So-
have to, if the rates change, that has to be approved by us on
Right,
an
the
agenda.
rates are in the contract.
But the rates are in the contract.
Right.
Yeah, that we're not
We've
making
already
offer of.
approved.
Can you say that?
Yeah.
Yeah, we already approved the contract.
I'm talking about the building and facility use form that people have filled out for our buildings already.
Yes.
That's what you're talking about also. So those forms were already sent to you and approved by these people, by other people, whoever's using our buildings. So if that was already approved by the office, and now administration is going to add on a fee for specific events, does that start immediately?
It will start, but I haven't, let me say, we haven't seen anything for any of the events that we're really zeroing in on.
In the new
Building
year,
use,
the building and use facilities.
We haven't seen
Form.
any. Liz?
Well, I did gather up information and I shared it with Mr. DeLorme.
Okay.
And I don't know how many of the organizations he's had a chance to contact yet.
Oh, because the ones I was referring to, I haven't seen them yet.
So my problem with just pulling it or just going forward with it, I guess, as an administration would do if we pulled it, right?
Can I just mention that, as I said, bringing it forward as an informational point.
Correct.
Allows the board to receive input and allows the administration to receive input to raise these questions. These are the questions that you say to Dr. Hibbs and to your secretary that, look, have you guys considered this? You know, are you looking at the impact of this decision on other people? That's what you're asking your administration to vet. Those are appropriate questions to bring forward as a point of information. So when it comes forward, you say, I'm concerned about people who have already put in their applications, have already planned their events. That's information that you can bring to your superintendent and say, we want you to consider this. And then at the end of the day, Dr. Hibbs considers all of that information and makes the best educational decision that can be made.
So if this is pulled now, it will come back to us as part of a rate schedule?
Yes, that's what it said here, at a subsequent meeting.
That's what I'm saying.
No,
It's
it's
not.
not.
It's gonna come.
Right.
I know,
We give
but
it
Kate
pulled
just
and he
said
takes
that
it.
at that point, we could have a discussion.
You can have a discussion now about it
Okay.
in terms of all of your
Okay.
your
But you
questions.
approved this when we approved the contract.
We did not go into the specifics of what we received last week.
When we approved the monitor's contract, we discussed this as part of their contract in executive session. This was part of that conversation as to whether or not when I was given the parameters of negotiation, and I'm not going to get into too many specifics of the negotiation, that part of it was part of that discussion.
The opportunity for
Yes.
extra.
And this
hours,
was,
whatever.
that was the
That was-
conversation.
yes.
This was mentioned.
And this was absolutely
That
part of
paper
it.
that we received last
I
week
didn't-
was not,
No, it was an executive.
it was not.
This was executive
Yes, it was.
session discussion.
That specific was not an executive.
It was a general discussion of not,
Specific.
Wait,
was not an
one minute,
executive
I
session.
can't hear if everybody's talking.
okay, there were not specific holidays, no, but there was a discussion of events. And it wasn't specific events.
It
for
was a
specific groups
discussion of extra
people.
work that we can be able to give them. Yes, I agree.
And there was specific, it was discussed, but not with
This rate thing.
specific groups and holidays.
So as a point of view, Kate, then I can make,
Yeah, you have to, correct, because that's an expenditure.
Right. So Debbie, we're still going to, at a subsequent meeting, have to approve this expenditure of the 2015-2016 school year facility use fee. We weren't approving that tonight. We were just saying we're going to approve that when it comes up. But we're going to consider it when it comes up for approval. Like I say, we're going to approve it till we approve it. But
Where are you?
I'm on the part B of 16, the second paragraph of 16. That's still going to come to us at a subsequent meeting, that fee use schedule to be approved.
Let me just fill you in on this process, though, and that's why I was asking Cindy. I've gone through the process before. They have to fill out their forms for the usage of our buildings. So if we pull this, right, for upcoming events, so if we pull this, they have to get a 2016, you haven't given a new schedule fee because we don't have one yet.
Correct.
We haven't filled one. So you are looking to give that to the people because I know you have to book your dates in advance and so forth.
And it's going to
I think
change,
you're
it's going to change
And
the
it's
price.
going to change the
You-
price.
There's two different things here going on. First of all, when somebody applies to use our building, they apply for the use of the building. We've told them the rates are going to change once we have the settled contracts. We've been telling everybody that.
Okay.
Okay, and they know there's going to be a back charge to everybody once these rates are approved, because we don't have settled contracts. Now that we're hopefully going to have the other one settled within the next month or so, and ratified that we will be going back and changing the rates and stuff. That is separate from this.
Okay.
This is for the monitors at large, unstructured events. It is not for the schools. It is not for your every week that you have schools. For the Chinese school, for the Hindi school, none of that. What it's for is your larger celebrations. When you have people that are coming in constantly, coming, going, et cetera and stuff. You don't have people at the front of the building watching who's coming in, watching our facility, watching what's going on. And that's what we're looking for.
Yeah, let me clarify the things for Cindy comment and some Dr. Hibbs comment too. The last week I was running a little bit, like I asked Cindy to send a document to me regarding to the security and the safety issue. I looked at the document regarding to the structure event. For every week, we have people use our folks use our facility for the, for instance, for the Chinese school, for Hindi school too, right? For other schools. So we consider that as a structure event. We give the fully trust on them. They take it's owner for them to use our facility. And they treat the facility very nice. They have the parents' PTA at the security on the gate. They have full, the implementation policy for each school. Combination, they have the plan in the police station for in case something happens. So every year they have a security so-called drills for them to do for the safety issues. So we're talking about structured event for the unstructured, just say, for instance, Chinese New Year. For the Chinese New Year, that's mainly it's once a year, right? For the Hindi school, they have Diwali for the once a year. For them, in order to celebrate the Chinese New Year, they planned very thoroughly, like months, for all the PTA's parents in the gate, say how many kids we're going to sell, and how many parents we needed to watch out for the entire security from each floor for use our auditorium. So if we want to say security monitor each coming guests, we can give us a sign up, say who they are, who can put the address into, so we can monitor who they are. They can really security reason to get into the building to find a solution. So I think for them to say, for the nonprofit organization, for them to charge in order to elaborate the culture, the Chinese culture, the Hindu culture, for them they don't even make this is for them even as nonprofit organization, they don't even have any penny for them. They counting penny by penny in order to run the school. Special enrollment so low for them. So I'm talking about the point. So we can consider them as a structured event because they have the security in place. That's what I'm trying to make point in here. Another issues we're talking about them. For the procedure for the clarification for Dr. Hibbs. If we take this agenda of the approval for board approval for put in the hand of the administration. So the Dr. Hip will have the regulation. You come to the board for review the regulation, or you just do it.
He comes
Or
to
just want
review,
clarification?
comes to review, but we don't approve. We just,
We just
information.
look at the
That's
review for the
correct.
regulation.
It's
and we don't
information.
have it.
Information.
So that's all we're asking, how the procedure works.
So he's hearing your input, which is well taken, and they're gonna take into consider your input as well as the other board members' input tonight when they make the regulation and come back to us.
Administrator can just make a decision.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
One at a time, please. Okay.
And also, just my friends, sorry, but
No, go.
so we say like we have like our school facility.
can't hear
We have back to school night. We have any celebration for the music. We all the parents come to our facility building. Did we monitor them? Say we have security guard in place? We don't. Like say my kids go to the for the show for choir for any band. All the parents we invite the family members to come to the
I
building too.
I'm not comfortable talking about our security.
But I'm just talking about monitor, should we have monitor in there? The same, exactly same event as for the Chinese New Year, they invite the family over for the baby.
If that's something we can talk about in exec.
Yeah, okay.
Can I just continue with my point of view?
Yeah.
Is that what you called it? I did? Okay. As a point of view, okay, I'm going to ask Dr. Hibbs and Dr. Hart, or whoever is in charge of this, Cindy, I'm not sure which administration is going to be doing this. I think that we need to take into consideration our nonprofit organizations that have been using our schools for up to 40-plus years. I think we need to take into consideration that they've welcomed training, and I'm not saying that any parent could train as well as our monitors, because I hold them at a high value, and I do hold security in our schools way up there, and I don't want to see that happening. And I think finding a mutual beneficial resolution, as one of the former Monmouth Chinese school presidents said, is especially to be taken into consideration, considering we're sitting here in October, and I've been a part of many nonprofit groups that struggle for money. And I'm not saying security is being bought over by money. I'm not. I'm with you on that. Security is always number one to me. But we're running into the middle of the year of their budget. And I think that, in a sense, it's not fair to former nonprofit organizations who have been with us, and we hold them in high esteem all these years, to run into a mid-year budget issue. And I think that's what we would be doing to them.
Okay.
Well, no, their budget, I'm sure, has been completed since June. But thank you, that's it.
Good. Greg?
I would just also ask to consider that any decision that's made, whether it's profit, nonprofit, small gathering, large gathering, just to make sure that that decision doesn't conflict with approved contracts. I think that's going to be a key element.
Okay. Okay.
Can I just clarify? I know that, I'm sorry, Eric, I know you're listening.
I'm listening.
But I'm not sure if I said it clearly. I'm not against doing this for immediately for profit or nonprofit that is new to our district. I was talking about.
Yeah.
Okay.
Deb, what I took from you was take into consideration the people that have a history with us and the fact that they have a budget that was most likely developed in a prior time, and this money was not budgeted. But anyone that's new to the district doesn't have that same history with us, either non or for.
Yeah. But I still think they should be monitored in some way.
So I want to add to my administration, my 2 cents is that the board discussed parents, volunteers. We went through all that when we discussed security, and the board made a very conscious decision that parent volunteers will not cut it as security monitors. As hard as they might want to try, as well-meaning as they are, they're not retired police officers. They're not retired security people that are trained in security. They're just not. They're parents that mean well, they mean the best, and they have the best intentions. 100%, I applaud them for having the best intentions, but they are not the same people that we hire as security monitors. And that'll be the last word that I'll say.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons why we stopped having PTO people sit at desks
Correct.
at our doors. That was the exact reason why we started to have security monitors.
Well, it was after the massacre.
After Sandy Hook.
After Sandy Hook, when they filled the room.
That's right.
And the mayor and brought everybody and demanded that we do something because the volunteers were not enough. That's what we were told.
Exactly.
They were not enough. And we had to go to the next step.
And as I said, we have spent millions of dollars to beef up our security. And I'm not going into how, but we have, and we have security monitors. And you can't do it in one area and not the other area. You can't say it's okay here and not okay there.
Sir, could I ask a question?
I have a question. Clarification with Mike said, we mentioned the number 16, right? We put a monitor. It's not a lifeguard in there, right?
I don't understand what you're saying.
You mentioned it with retired policemen. We're talking about only monitor. It's
But
not
that's what our
saying
monitors
that's
are.
they
They're
are.
retired
Yes,
policemen.
That's them.
All our monitors are retired policemen. Everyone that we've hired that's a school monitor is a retired policeman.
Yeah.
And that would be, he would be at the schools doing the same work.
With years of intuition about good situations, dangerous situations, there's something you can't put a price tag on that.
I know, they have.
Sir, I've written down everyone's comments that have said something today. So Craig asked me to consider to make sure that we're not violating any contract language. Bonnie reinforced the fact that this is why we don't have PTO, parents sitting at our doors. Deb, I think I summarized what you asked. You're all okay for the new for-profits or non-profits. Sir, you basically, you mentioned that as well-meaning as our parents are, and they are well-intentioned, they are not trained law enforcement. So does anybody else want to add anything else to that?
Just look at the Freehold Regional, their facilities usage policy,
I already pulled it up while we're sitting here.
I helped write it, so.
Thank you, Mike.
My clarification is you can put in, say, we have policy, that regulation you bring to the board for review, or just say, we haven't seen any regulation, right? For review. For
Review.
Right? You don't bring about review your regulation.
Not to vote on.
Not to vote on.
But at least review, we know what's going on before you do anything, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's all. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that way, that's,
It would go first to the policy committee, Joanne, and then it will come to the board.
Okay.
for transparency.
Discussion, information. Anybody else have any questions on the other items?
I just
Go ahead.
I want to understand what Debbie told you. Are you saying,
I'm just telling
are
them
you
to
saying
take
that
into
not the ones
consideration.
that have had a history with us to not charge them? And only charge the new people coming into the
I'm
district?
not telling him what to do. I am telling him to take into consideration the ones that have been with us and have been here for 10 to 40 years,
Yeah.
whatever it's been, these nonprofits, take them into consideration. Take into consideration that their budget is already completed. You have to take these things into consideration. And I'm with you, Mike. Security is number one.
So maybe
I'm not trying to say
what
that
you're saying is the
our
budget's
monitors-
completed this year, but next year they'll know what's coming.
No, it's not budget.
At least, as a person who budgets, you budget for, if
understand.
you have to charge a student $1 extra to come in and you expect 300 people, at least you could budget that extra $1.
Okay, so I can understand that.
I understand.
Well
Yep.
said, I agree with you.
Okay.
I just want to make sure it was.
Don't touch me, you're sick.
I'm not sick. You got me sick a bunch of times before. Always
I
coughing.
got
I'm not sick.
I have
Yeah,
everybody's,
showed up,
everybody's
you
comments.
tried.
All right, anybody else on financial and business? Any other item on financial and business?
I have another question.
Yes.
For number 5, it says the travel for Mrs. Riddell. Is this something that's being offered at the conference, or is it at the New Jersey School Board Conference? Is this totally different?
I think it's totally different, right?
In Monroe.
It's a different one?
Yeah.
It's a full day as opposed to what you get at a conference.
Okay.
Is maybe 2 hours. This is a full day.
You go, Joanne.
Good job.
Enjoy.
But there'll be a bunch at the conference also, but this is a full day one? Good job.
Okay. We good, financial? Cindy, please call the roll. But everything except for 16 has been pulled.
Yeah.
I mean, if we say the right thing.
Mrs. Ennie?
What's that?
Okay. I need to abstain from, in number 4, Dr. Hibbs and Tom Ennie because I'm conflicted. I'm gonna say no on, no on Carol Vecchio.
I didn't hear you.
Two things.
No on Carol.
No on the park stuff. I don't know, it just doesn't sit well with me. I need to abstain from number 7 because I am conflicted. And, yes, on the rest.
Mrs. Lou Riddell?
Yeah, I think number 5, the rest, the 2016, and the rest I'm okay.
Mr. Marshall?
Yes.
Mrs. Rosenwald?
Yes.
Mrs. Wolf?
Yes.
Mrs. Dean?
Yes.
Mrs. Matos?
Yes.
Mr. Lalansky?
Yes. Brings us to page 15, Curriculum Matters. Bonnie, am I reading, please?
Sure. Curriculum Matters, the superintendent of the school submits the following resolution for approval. 2015-2016 NJQ SAC, in parentheses, SOA. That was alphabet soup. It's New Jersey QSAC, SOA. ISO, what do I ISO by?
You move.
Move the
It's
letters.
been a while.
Move the alphabet soup.
Thank you, Bonnie. Seconded by Darren. Any discussion on curriculum? Seeing none, Cindy, please call the roll.
Mrs. Dean?
Yes.
Mrs. Lou Riddell? Yes. Mr. Marshall?
Yes.
Mrs. Matos?
Yes.
Mrs. Wolf?
Yes.
Mrs. Ennie?
Yes.
Mrs. Rosenwald?
Yes.
Mr. Lalansky?
Yes. Do we have any changes on personnel matters before we? No? Very good. We have page 16, 19 resolutions from page 16 to 25. Darren, you mind?
The superintendent of schools submits the following resolutions for approval. 1, retirements. 2, resignation. 3, employment certificated staff. 4, employment school monitor. 5, employment instructional assistants part-time. 6, amended salary. 7, transportation amended hours salaries. 8, transfer. 9, stipend mentor teacher. 10, stipend longevity bus driver. 11, stipend monitor teacher training. 12, substitute teachers. 13, substitute instructional assistant. 14, substitute school aide. 15, substitute school monitor. 16, substitute bus attendant. 17, paid medical disability leaves. 18, unpaid leaves of absence. 19, amended resolution, leave dates. I so move.
Thank you, Darren. Seconded by Joanne. Personal matters, questions, discussion? Seeing none. Cindy, quickly.
Mrs. Dean?
Yes.
Mr.
Everybody change their
Marshall?
mind.
Yes.
Mrs. Matos?
Yes.
Mrs. Rosenwald?
Yes.
Mrs. Wolf?
Yes.
Mrs. Lou Riddell?
Yes.
Mrs. Ennie?
Yes.
Mr. Lalansky?
Yes. Okay, I know administration has some kind words for our retirees. I know we also have some people from the public as well. Hallelujah. Would you like to go? Would you like to go first?
Oh, my goodness, I would love to.
Okay.
Here, Mrs. Canal. Just like Mr. Wells, I don't need a mic, but I've been here frequent enough to know I need to talk here today. I'm here tonight as a representative of Robertsville School, so I will not be giving my name or my address. Mrs. Fennell, after 23 years, is leaving the district, and on behalf of Robertsville, we have to let the board know that she is more than an instructional assistant. She takes care of medical need children. She has a communication log with the parents. Every day she communicates with them. When they miss school, she calls home. She's even shown up at their homes. She takes them off the bus. She is more than just an instructional assistant. 2 years ago, I had the distinct pleasure of having her with me during the day. And she would come in and say, what do you need? I don't need anything. She would sing, as you all know I like to sing and dance. She kept a notebook and a binder. At the end of the year, she left my math, and it was only math. with a 3-inch binder. Every day, she write the objective, the lesson, she would do the homework. That way, if the students, and it wasn't just the one she was taking care of, it was every student in the room, whether or not she was assigned to watch them, every single student, she would be able to answer their question. It is a huge loss to the district, and we love her more than she will ever know.
Thank you for your kind words. Thank you for your dedication to our children.
No, you have to go up to the mic.
It has been more than a job.
To the mic, they can't hear you on the video.
Am I allowed to do this?
Yes, yes.
I'm sorry. Do you want my address? I really did not know at all what Mrs. Bonner was going to say about. But it's been a true pleasure. Linda Atanasio at our Pro Day happened to reference her background having gone to a Catholic elementary school. And she had some little tidbits about, which I have also shared, having gone to 12 years of a Catholic school in Jersey City. But we did not have the benefit of art, music, or any of the special things that our children are so fortunate to have. In fact, we had 65 children in a first grade class with one nun, and since there were no preps, the only break was lunch. And the only one thing that we did was go to a vocation rally in 7th grade to St. Holy College, then, now university, it was almost like a job fair for people intending to be sisters or nuns. But God works in funny ways. Certainly I didn't fulfill a vocation, but I certainly, in later life, established a sense of a vocation, which I felt was a job that I did every day. My students gave more to me than I could ever give to them. And I was fortunate to work with medically fragile children, but my feeling was that I have them for 7 hours a day. For parents who have children of concern, that is 24/7. So I always felt, to each parent, I would say to them in the beginning, I can't avoid everything, but I would do my best to at least be accountable for what happened each day. And so for that, it has fulfilled every satisfaction that I could ever have in the 23 years. My husband and I raised 4 children in Marlborough, so we've gone through the ropes of all of the educational system in Marlborough. So I'd like to thank you for allowing me to provide a service for your children. Thank you very much. One little thing I wanted to say. When Mayor Hornick walked in, I was laughing because I said to him, do you remember once at a 9/11 service 2 years ago, saying that Marlborough, although we're a thriving community, we are very much act and feel as like a small town. And I thought tonight's meeting certainly reflected just the way the residents of Marlborough do feel about what they themselves are so important, but they come with their heart and their soul. And I do believe, and I said to Mayor Hornick when he walked in, I said, my goodness, I was just thinking about you. And I said, you did say that, didn't you? And he said, yes. I said, okay, thank God I didn't create it in my mind, but thank you very, very much.
And once again, on behalf of the board, thank you so much for your dedication to the students in Marlborough. Thank you.
I think that was your best yet.
I thought the scooter one was better, but it's okay.
Nah, this one was way more heartfelt. It was awesome. Congratulations. Thank you for all that you've given.
Doreen Fennell. Doreen Fennell is retiring at the end of this school year after serving as an instructional aide for the past 24 years, the last 13 of which were at Robertsville School. Doreen has always worked with medically fragile children. Utilizing her nursing background as a licensed practical nurse, She worked hard to build strong relationships with the students and parents she serves. Her mantra was always, "What would I want if this were my child?" Doreen was a strong advocate for her students and worked tirelessly to ensure their success. She is known by staff and students for her dedication, kindness, and strong attention to detail. She would often stay late to work with students, help support teachers, or put together creative bulletin boards. Her caring and desire to help were great assets to Robertsville and the Marlborough Township Public Schools. We wish Doreen well as she begins this new chapter and thank her for all of her efforts to make a difference in the lives of students and their families. Her presence and kindness will be greatly missed.
And thank you for letting us speak first. Have a great night.
Thank you, too.
Look at it. Don't be involved. Good night.
Deborah Sidran Hertz joined the Marlborough School District in 1998. She has served students as the ESL, English as a Second Language teacher, at both DeFino Elementary and Marlborough Middle for the past 17 years. In this role, Debbie continues to be an advocate for her students who are new to our country and a consistent, supportive resource for the staff. Debbie works closely with the content teachers and creates lessons for her students that follow the same curriculum standards. Just last year, Debbie was observed delivering a language arts lesson that modeled the grade level instruction while infusing vocabulary instruction and new skills. Our students have benefited greatly from her knowledge of the standards, her welcoming approach to learning, and her collaborative relationships with staff members. Debbie has received grants from the Marlborough Foundation to purchase digital dictionaries and other tools to support student learning. She is always looking for supplemental materials and training to further enhance her skills and promote student growth. We congratulate Debbie on her retirement, knowing that she will investigate other opportunities to continue as an educator and resource for children and adults, and will continue to travel with her husband Seth and her 3 daughters, Pamela, Melanie, and Michelle. Congratulations, Debbie. Debbie.
Linda Hamler. Ms. Hamler began her career with the Marlborough Township Public School District as a school bus driver in September 1990. During her 25 years of service, Ms. Hamler has done an excellent job and seen many changes take place in the transportation department as well as the district. When she started her career, the department had a number of floater packages, buses that had a stick shift, no seat belts or time clock. Ms. Hamler's attitude toward her job is exceptional. Linda sincerely cares for the children on her routes. She always encourages the students to follow her example and show respect for one another. Linda has made it her duty to provide the children on her routes the safest ride to and from school that was within her power, and she did this for a quarter of a century. Ms. Hamler is a pleasure to work with. Her ready smile and quick wit will be sorely missed. We wish Linda health, happiness, and hope she truly enjoys spending more time with her partner, children, and grandchildren.
Jane Thede is retiring at the end of the school year after serving the past 26 years as a kindergarten teacher, a BSI teacher, and for the majority of her career, a special education teacher. Ms. Thede has taught students in grades K through 7 over her career, and we have been lucky enough to have her supporting the staff and students of Robertsville for most of her 26 years in education. Mrs. Thede is dedicated to supporting the students she serves, and although she has accumulated many years of experience, she has always been relentless in honoring her craft and continuing to grow and learn as an educator. Jane was known by colleagues as someone that you could always depend on to help out and do whatever is necessary to ensure the success of both students and staff. Mrs. Thede was a positive and calming influence on the school and will be greatly missed by all. We wish Jane well as she embarks on her new journey. She is looking forward to spending more time with her family and grandchildren. Thank you, Jane, for all of your years of service to Marlborough Township and to the Robertsville School.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Liz. On behalf of the Marlborough Township Board of Education, we wish our retirees, who had a combined 90 years, it's a nice number, 90 years of dedication to the students of Marlborough a happy and healthy retirement. Okay. Moving on, page 26, Policy Development, Community Relations Matters. Spoke to Dr. Hibbs this week, and we bounced around the job description.
Yep.
Dr. Hibbs just mentioned to me that since this came to the board quickly as on a regular meeting, we'd rather do the discussion tonight, pull it, and we can vote on in the subsequent meeting because it's a lot to chew for one night. Correct, sir?
Absolutely.
Right, you want to give a description of it?
Yeah.
I still want Dr. Hibbs to give a description of what he's asking for.
Sure. So, and I put a pretty detailed response here in the green notes. So, Adam Brown, who is our current person that handles everything data for us and also serves as a right hand to Tom in network type issues or big thing type issues, is leaving us. Aside from being a hard worker and very intuitive with our data portion of Genesis and NJ Smart, it leaves a hole. And what happened here initially is that Adam was hired as a Tech 1, correct, Sin? Tech 1, starting salary of roughly $43,000. And what happens here is that he very nicely fit into the niche of being able to manage Genesis, which can be a full-time job. Having someone to do this is absolutely essential to our district, and is going to leave a gaping hole that we have to fill. Genesis is not only new to us, but it's a fluid system that needs attention. So the first thing that I did when I heard this is that I sat down with Mr. Ennie, and the first question I asked was, can anybody else do it? That's the first thing. Just like we look at the existing space for full day K, can we fill it? And the answer that I was given was, it absolutely not. He has strong people on his team, but they're fixers. They're not managers of the programs. So
was he hired just for Genesis?
So he was hired as a tech, and that was the role that we threw him into, absolutely. And I don't know when his starting day was, but he was only here about a year.
And not knowing if he was going to be able to handle it or not, it was just that's where y'all put it.
No,
That was our focus. When we
Yeah, with him,
put
that's
this
where we put
person
him.
on, It was to do this.
Yes. So, Adam came to us right out of the Army, and he came in and impressed Mr. Ennie, and he picked up the reins, and he did a great job. Now we're looking at this position. We lost through a trickle-down effect. So the regional created a position. They then went to Freehold Township and took their person. Freehold Township then took our person. So that left us.
And the newly created position.
So Freehold, the high school district was a newly created position. Okay. Absolutely. Okay. Freehold Township was not a newly created position.
But the same position but already existed.
Yes.
Okay.
Same position existed. They had someone there that I think was making my brain serves me correctly. I think it was $75,000, but they had been in the seat for a little while. Okay. But they left, and I think to take 85 from the regional. So that's where we are. A large gaping hole in this position. It's not often that I'm going to come to you and say, this is a problem. This is a problem, 100%. And if we have to, there's going to be a process here. The reason why, we're bringing for discussion tonight and pulling this and having you chew on it is simply the fact that it is a sea change from where we were. The job description is definitely different. This is a person that is not just a fixer or a tinkerer. That is a different skill set. This is a person that manages all of our data, manages all of our uploads for NJ Smart, the numerous state reports that we have to do. They handle that end of the tech. So what we did was, I would like to discuss with the board their thoughts on upping the salary, because I'm afraid that if we don't look in the low 60s or 60 in general, I'm going to have a constant turnover, and constant turnover is never good in any position. So if we had constant turnover in my seat, or in the director of HR, it's not good for continuity. It would be not good for a classroom. It's really not good for a tech that handles all of the high level data management that this person would need to, and I'm afraid that leaving it as 43, that all you're going to have is a turnstile that's just going to keep turning, and all we then is we start over from scratch. And then when we looked around and looked at surrounding districts that have a position such as this, they're paying sometimes a lot more than 60 for this. So it's what this position is calling for. And 43, we got lucky in that we had Adam, for a year, and he did a very good job for us. Could we get lucky again? Sure. The answer is yes, we could. Will most likely that person come for a year, realize that somewhere else can pay them significantly more? Yeah, that's what I would do. I would come get the experience, and then I'd bounce out here like a rubber ball, because I could go make $25,000 more for doing the same job. So that's my fear. So what I would really implore / beg of you is to consider that, and that this can't be a hole that we can't fill. It can't be something that we leave. It absolutely can be chewed upon and looked at November 12th, right, Cindy? But I would really ask for we have to wrap up our plans by the 12th. Michael asked me some questions that I will be happy to dig into. I'll be happy to get any information that you need or answer any questions that you may have. 100%. You want to fire at me?
In some districts, is it considered more of an administrative position as opposed to?
It could be. It absolutely could be. It all depends upon how the district sets it up. They could absolutely be under the administrative costs. Yeah, absolutely. So were we looking at that? No, we're not looking at that. We're looking at being as a separate position outside of the unit, because there are going to be confidential implications here, but they will not be an administrator. They will 100% report to Tom Ennie, in that aspect. But yes, some people do look at that and put it that way. We are not looking at it that way. We don't want our administrative costs to rise.
Are you, if we raise the price, because it's a $17,000 jump.
Yes.
You're not going to have the other position still there for the $43,000, right? You're going to do away with that position.
It's an excellent question, Mrs. Dean. We are not looking to create new and backfill old. So there will not be, if granted, a $60,000 position created, and then a replacement of 43 for a total of $103,000.
It's a $17,000 jump.
Yes.
It's just one position.
One position.
Yeah, it's one position, but
Yeah.
it's for $17,000 more.
You're not backfilling the position that Adam would have been in.
My other question is, the townships that you gave us as an example, with the prices that are here.
Yep.
Are these gentlemen just doing what this job is, or are these a Tom Ennie position?
No, they're definitely not a Tom Ennie position.
So these are
Oh, yeah.
exactly what
Yes.
this position would be called?
Yes.
100%.
And they still have the Tom Ennie position.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's all I want to clarify. They still have a
1,000%.
supervisor.
If you'd like for me to do more deep dives and give you the prices on what their equivalent of Tom Ennie makes, we can absolutely get that for you. Is it over 75? We'll put you on the user-friendly budget. 75,000. When do you have to? So anything over, every school district has to post their user-friendly budget. It's the document that's blue.
If they're not in bargaining units.
Yes, you're correct. So, but a lot of those will be outside of that, and if not, I'm sure I could figure out. So if you'd like me to find out what that Tom Ennie would make, I can do that.
But we do that, we bring that back when we talk about renewals every year for that, too.
Sure.
And this contract's not in a union. This person's not
No.
a part of a union, right?
No, they'd be separate of that.
But the tech one is in the bargaining.
Tech one is in the bargaining unit.
Bargaining unit losing a position, and it's
Yes.
going outside.
Debbie?
Are there responsibilities here for the new position that will double dip into the facilitators' responsibilities? Because when we hired the new facilitators, they were supposed to.
No.
Bring the data.
The data.
No, they won't. No, great question. They won't double dip. No. So, I think back when you had Power School, I don't remember the gentleman that we paid. Cindy, who's that? Who's the gentleman?
Rob Stats.
And approximately yearly salary. What do we pay?
We paid him about $25,000 a year, depending on how much we used him.
And Genesis is we use Genesis more in the ways now than we did for Power School. So what it is it's not that type of data. So this person will not be sifting through test scores looking to see if the third grade at Asher compares to the third grade at Tofino in whatever Common Core state standard. No redundancy there at all whatsoever.
Can I just make another point of view.
Sure. Go for it. Point of view.
Comment. It seems like knowledge of Genesis is very important in this, and yet we put information, the Genesis Student Information System preferred, but not a requirement. I don't like not a requirement. I just,
No.
comment.
Yeah. You know, I can speak to that because I looked at that and that was my suggestion to change, and here's the reason why. Is that even the genesis, no pun intended, of us getting here, it was actually good for 10 o'clock, is the fact that simply at 40-30, it's going to be a turnstile. That's my fear. Adam came in, he didn't have experience with Genesis, but he was a very good thinker. So my thought process was, if we put that only, there might be some really good computer people out there that might have been working with real-time, or might have been working with on-course or insert student information system here, and I didn't want to eliminate that. So would we naturally probably gravitate to someone that had Genesis experience? Yeah, they'd be able to speak to what we had, but that doesn't mean that the right kind of person couldn't be living in a different district that had similar but not similar things. But that's, your point of view is noted and taken.
I printed it, and I probably left it on my bag. But I don't remember the schooling requirements. I don't remember seeing them there. What's the level of education requirement for this person?
Give me a sec.
I don't remember seeing it.
Under qualifications?
Yeah.
Got it.
There is no school.
That's what I mean. I don't remember seeing it.
Just background.
So if we're going to pay somebody that kind of,
$60,000.
yeah, we should have some kind of qualifications for
Okay.
schooling on there.
Okay, I can look at that, sir.
Okay.
Question here, the type person also we need to pay do we need to have contract or permanent employee, or we have all the full benefit? Or the type person we do, right?
Yes.
Yeah, they would be over 30 hours. This is not this is not one that you would want to look at under 30 hours. It's a full-time job, and with it being a full-time job, benefits would come with that.
I have to ask a question because I'm getting the impression some people really don't understand what this person is and stuff. And you've heard us talk about NJ Smart. NJ Smart is our data collector, okay? We feed everything, our attendance, our score, we feed everything through NJ Smart. So what we have in Genesis basically has to be perfect. And then we feed it to NJ Smart. That's why this person is such an important, critical piece to this, because this is how the state's gathering all the information on districts now. So when a child comes in, they're assigned a number. The state's able to track wherever that child goes all over the state through NJ Smart. So all of our data, everything we feed into this is crucial to be correct. And he's put things in place that has helped us, and Genesis he's worked very closely with them. So it's a critical position that, as Dr. Hibbs said, we wouldn't be coming to you on and saying, we're desperate here because this guy walks. It's going to take time. And right now, we've got the ASSA that is going in, the DRTRS that's going in, and we've got special ed counts that have got to go in. We've got to make sure these are correct. Well, now we're going to have parts of people trying to fill in to get this in place.
Yeah.
So it's not just data and Genesis, it's a whole
What did we have before? Power School, right?
Yes.
So all that from Power School still had to be sent to NJ Smart?
No.
Right? No?
It was just coming through.
Yeah, it was.
With NJ Smart.
Yeah, there were different needs there.
Okay, so that's why I wanted to try to
Yeah.
distinguish for the public that it's a bigger demand because of
Absolutely.
Genesis and
Yeah.
everything else. We didn't have to do this before, so this position wasn't needed because technicians
Like
could
we
handle
put
Yes.
what we need.
the ASSA count in differently. Now, everything comes back. We took the snapshot on Friday the 15th, sent it to the state. They'll send it back to us, and then we've got to verify it and check it and go through it and make sure what we had in there is correct. But it's based on all your funding. That's how we get funded now for everything, and that's why it's always a back and forth, and it's critical for us. And we're also rated in our QSAC if we go in there with very few
over a 2 or 3% error.
Yes.
Gang,
I think I'm understanding right, because it's a lot of data mapping. A lot of EDI, electronic data interchange and data mapping. It's not a guy putting numbers in a spreadsheet.
No.
I want the board to understand this is data mapping, and
Oh, yeah.
which is, you don't map your data right,
There's issues I mean, there's catastrophic issues. I, typically, and I thought back, over the last 2 years, yes, I've come to you come budget time and said, hey, I'd like you to consider this. I don't know that I've come to you on something else like this and said, hey, we're going to be out of luck here completely. I really do feel as if there's a hole. It's a gaping hole. We were lucky to get away with it at $43,000, and I'd rather not have to go out every year and replace this individual. Now, can I guarantee this person's not going to look at a place like the regional for 85? I can't guarantee that. I just know that 43 is just simply not going to be competitive for this type of job, 100%.
Craig?
Craig?
My view on this is, again, this is more of an administrative decision. I appreciate that you're bringing this to us to discuss it, but you guys are dealing with this on a daily basis, so from my standpoint, for the difference in the funds to do things correctly, because it will have a snowball effect down the road, whether it's positive or negative, I think we need to do the right thing now. So, I mean, honestly, unless somebody really has an objection not to do this, I'm not sure why how much more we need to go through it.
No money.
I understand.
Fine.
Okay.
Thanks, Craig.
Hashtag I need to take a nap. I think my opinion is, I would like to see Genesis as a requirement, because of everything that you have said, because of the critical nature of this. This is something that you have described as something that is so important, and with the reports that have to go out so soon, and with the data mapping, and all these critical, intricate parts that are so needed now, not later, we can't afford to have somebody learning on the job right now. If this was months ago coming in, I could see where you would say, we can get away with somebody who would have these other experiences. But at this particular juncture, I don't think we have the time for that. I think we need to pay somebody the money that we need to get somebody in here with the experience that we need, because we don't have the time to fool around. So I think we have to put the right criteria in with the right dollar amount at this point. We don't have that time and that luxury to play.
Yes.
I just want to add, with my opinion, with all due respect, I really, and Eric, I know we've discussed this, I really don't want to do anything because of time. I know that you have to fill this, but please don't make a decision on how you're going to go forward with it, because we're in a bad timeline. I know she was saying that, we're out of time, we need to do this, we need to do that. I just don't want to see, I don't like adding a position. I'm okay with this because we are taking away, like Vicki brought up. So I'm okay with that. I just don't like being in a bad time, in a bad situation that we need to go forward so quickly. I know that you guys will take into consideration everything that we need, so it won't be hastily done. I just want to, because that kind of scared me when I heard it. I want to put it out there that it's not going to be.
We're not, I 100% heard.
Okay.
100% heard.
Thank you.
You got it.
These other programs are very similar to Genesis.
They are.
Right.
They are very
So
similar.
I don't know if.
I'm kind of
We have
afraid
to
if we
have
make it,
Genesis
I'm kind of afraid if we make
One
it a
at a time, one at a time,
requirement,
please.
I'm afraid if we make it a requirement and it's so new Genesis, that it will limit us to who we can find. We might not, I don't know. I think Adam wasn't, he was out of the Army, he didn't know anything about Genesis, and he knew how to do it.
It's an interesting discussion, because you can see both points of view.
No, I see,
From
I do.
Bonnie's point of view, look, you want to have
This
it.
has been out there.
No, it
Yes.
has, but what I'm saying is, when somebody is really good at technology, I think they can come in,
They
like
can
I was
pick it
trying
up.
to use it, they can pick that up.
Yep.
And I don't want to limit us of,
So
But I
what,
do think it
how about
should
this?
be on there.
You know,
It says
you,
preferred.
you guys charge me with, you know, if we're at that point of finding the right kind of person, if I bring to you someone that in the interview doesn't have Genesis experience, by the time they start this district, they'll have already done their research because they're the right kind of person on what we need. But I think that you should cross that bridge as you come to it, because, you know, if you are looking at a starting salary of around 60, even though it is a $17,000 increase, it's still a lot less than a lot of other places are paying. So my only fear would be, and I fully understand Bonnie's point, would I rather have somebody with Genesis? Yeah, absolutely. I absolutely would.
Can't we go steal somebody from somewhere else?
Well, yes, you can do that. And that, you know, and the trickle down will trickle down even further. But, I mean, Bonnie's point is not missed. Obviously, if there's someone that has Genesis experience, they're going to have a much deeper look right away because, you know, that's what we have.
Do a better job because she had Genesis experience.
Yes.
And they snapped her up like this because she had Genesis experience.
So, Bonnie, you
And they
have
wanted
something?
it.
Yeah.
You have something in mind, someone in mind, or?
No, absolutely
Okay,
not.
just saying.
In her field.
No, Bonnie's just
in
saying
her
that
field,
she values the Genesis experience.
She's not a tech. In her field, she was snatched up because she had, one of her attributes was she had Genesis experience. So that's why they hired her immediately. Within 2 hours, she was hired.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, because technology person, it's not
She's
the
not a technology person.
You mean, I understand you're trying to say, yeah, I come from technology, I'm just work with technology, everything. Just say, because it's Genesis now is a plus, but it take them, it's easy for maybe 1 month to get familiar with about it, but for them, it's much easier to pick up. I mean, if we have the requirement to pick the well-experienced person, that would be expensive, you know, it could be 80K plus benefit. Are we willing to pay that amount of money? That's the boil down the question to, that's for discussion, right? Are we
Yes.
going to willing to put 80K, 100K plus fringe benefit for this position?
Because you come from technology, you know what that position goes for.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
So, because the old technology person is talking about application. Applications easy to learn. It's not as if Mike mentioned data mapping programming. That's different things. Just not the field. What's going on? That's
Yes.
very easy things, you know.
Okay.
I think when we advertise and when we talk about the job description, I think we probably want to cast the widest net in a pool of talent
That's right.
and narrow it down from a paper screening and an interview perspective.
Right.
So I think by requiring Genesis, it may deter applicants.
That's what I was
If
trying.
we,
Yeah,
if we
right.
deter applicants, then we're going to narrow our pool of people that we're looking for. While I understand that Genesis is highly desired for the position, do we want to eliminate potential applicants by advertising that Genesis is a
Yeah.
requirement for the
Plus,
position?
in the middle of the year.
Right.
I mean, right away, you're going to narrow your candidate pool anyway, because you're doing it during the middle of the year.
Yeah.
Do we need a specify the range? Say it's our job or Dr. Hibbs' job, the range of the type.
For money?
Our job,
Salary, you mean?
Salary, right? Salary range.
What do you recommend?
He recommends.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want.
Yeah. I put in here that I'm recommending a starting salary of 60. I didn't feel as if any more of that was going to be palatable. I got the feeling. And I think it's an increase from the 43. The 43 is just way too low. It really is. And people walk in and they're doing a district level job for 43. They're going to take that and they're going to leave. Mike runs a trucking.
Learn Genesis, get the experience,
Yeah.
and then go get their
Yeah.
$70,000.
Well, and Mike knows this. He runs a trucking business, and he knows that if he's not competitive with his drivers, that they're going to go somewhere else. So he talks about it all the time about taking care of his drivers, and we all know why they stay with Michael, because he's a great guy. And that's the 43. They're going to take it and they're going to run, and you can't even blame them.
For the technology for undergraduate student, for entry job, at least 50K. Right.
Yes.
At least 50.
With the education, what's not on there yet?
Yes.
On the education piece.
No, I definitely think we should have some education on here.
Yep. I can do that. I mean, that's easy. It's easy
All
to
right, so
do.
Dr. Hibbs, this will be on the next board meeting agenda to vote on. If you have any other questions between now and then, that would be a good time to email Dr. Hibbs your questions.
I think you're paying way too much.
Go ahead, Bon. What do you think it should be? She said low.
Your lowest salary here is Homedale. Oh, is Ocean at 66. That's your lowest salary. Then your highest salary is Howell at 93.
Are you gonna vote on it, Bonnie, if we increase it?
I will vote on a realistic salary. I don't think $60,000, because you can't look at it as a raise. You're putting in a new position. It's not a raise on an existing position. We're talking about a totally new position.
You're right.
But the things that you're asking for the entry level, or you asking experienced person?
Well, we're asking for an experienced person. That's why I'm sitting here and saying to you that we're looking for an experienced person, and they have to write a true job description for an experienced person. I'm not looking for an entry person who's trying to learn on the job. I don't want
So out of
someone
8
learning on the
districts,
job.
out of 8 districts, we would be the 9th district, we would still be the lowest.
Well,
Out of the- yeah.
Out of those 9.
68.
Yeah,
would be.
I'm just saying, we
You would
would
be.
still be the lowest out of 9.
Do you
Yeah.
have to list the salary in the ad?
Yeah.
He's 68,000.
Typically, you know, it's
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's a
Yeah, we would still be at 60,000.
what do we usually do, John?
We could say salary commensurate with experience. We could do that. We could put a range. We could say between 60 and 70, whatever the board is comfortable with.
And you come to us with why you need to pay this guy.
We could do a range, which is a good.
That's what Joanne was saying.
That's a good.
What if we
So,
get a person?
so why don't we just do this? Dr. Hibbs, and we all know what numbers that are on there. Let them, salary commensurate with abilities, whatever you come with a recommendation with somebody in a salary.
I ain't going 85.
Well,
Oh, I just put it out there, I'm not going to 85
okay.
or 93, that's a lot.
I agree. That is a lot.
Because if that was the case, then we
I-
should have
I
said, hey,
agree.
Adam, I'll give you the 68. Don't go anywhere.
Yes,
But did he already accept the position before he
Yes.
started?
he did. Hence the stoppage of phone calls. 4 hours of my day. 4 hours of my day. I'm never getting back.
They did, but where did it say?
You're
He's
wrong.
not gonna put it.
I told you.
You absolutely did, Bon. Look, I agree. Look, at the end of the day, if I put 60, I knew that someone would say it was too low, and it's not. So I agree. 60 still. I think 60 is still on the low end, 100%. However, in speaking to the board, which is my job, the feeling was the difference in price between the $17,000. Do I think that there should be something a little higher? I think that would make it more palatable. Do I think 93 is appropriate? Absolutely not.
Do you
So-
think we could get somebody that's experienced at 60? I think we could. It just depends. I mean,
I-
a guy coming out of college or coming out of, has a couple years' experience that's very good in IT.
Yes.
And sees that he's gonna get a $60,000 job with a $30,000 medical benefit package. Now, we're paying this guy $90,000. Hey, I need my kid to go to college to be an IT guy, because that's, to me, that's good starting salary for some young guy. Or a young woman, I'm just
Jake,
saying.
I don't disagree with you. I agree with you
To me, that is
wholeheartedly.
palatable.
I do agree.
'Cause it's not 60, it's
Howard,
90.
to Mike's point, you might get someone from another district that's already making 60 that's not going to make the move, and they may come and say, I'll make the move for 68, and that person could have Genesis experience out the wazoo, and then you're putting a price tag on $8,000 for someone that can walk in and run, as opposed to someone that can walk in and
Well,
crawl.
that's what you come back to
And
tell
that's
us.
and that's fine. I think 100% that's what we
But
should
if we're
do.
sitting here discussing it, and we're all saying that 60 is a good place to be, and you find the RKP that you're looking for, wouldn't you come back to us and say, look, I know we said 60.
100%.
And I think we should give this guy 65, 68.
Yeah.
It's worth the
Well, that's what he just said.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I mean, why are we sitting here saying, oh, well, maybe we should go
No,
higher?
I think
We don't need to go higher.
I mean, from what I'm hearing from
Frank
you,
said leave it open.
I'm hearing that take a look at the schooling qualifications. John, you wrote that down, which we'll absolutely do, and then bring it back as a finished job description, and then we can look at it on November 12th and move from there.
We have
Good.
a
Very
budget
good.
to fill.
Put it to bed. Let's go.
Okay, so we're pulling number 1. We're on page 26, Policy Development Community Relations, Barry. Only gives us pulling number 1. Joanne, would you mind reading that? And only the number 2, please.
Superintendent of the schools submit the following resolutions for approval. 1.
No, we're not doing 1.
Two.
Two, second readings. I so move.
Thank you, Joanne. Seconded by Craig. Okay, any discussion on the policies? We have discussed these before. These are back for second reading.
Me?
Yeah.
Okay, I know we changed, I wasn't here when we changed it. We changed policy 5756. I asked our nice attorney over here, why we changed the policy back to the slimmer, trimmer, not detailed policy, and she explained, but I'm going to still vote no, because even though I understand the reasoning behind it, knowing the people of our town, I personally think that the more detailed version would have been better for our townspeople, because I think the ambiguity of it would lead to more confusion in our town.
Okay.
So I will be voting no, not because I disagree with the policy, I just feel that the detailed one is better. I like it better, and I think it is a better policy.
Okay. Thanks, Bonnie. Deb?
Bonnie, I'm not sure if you got to watch the meeting last week. I actually.
did not have a
Okay,
chance to.
or last, whenever it was. I had asked Mark actually the same thing that night, because we had discussed it in committee, and he said he doesn't feel like it would be an issue, just to let you know what he said. He didn't feel that it would be an issue because Dr. Hibbs would have to take everything as a per
Case.
Yes. Scenario. But that's the response, basically.
And the other one pretty much limits, like, this is what it's gonna be detailed, and this was more, he had more of a case-by-case approach.
That he would have to anyway, that's
Yeah.
basically what it was.
Yeah, I mean, it was absolutely, it came right out of Mark. I think Bon's just saying that she just liked
Right,
the
no, I just wasn't aware.
non-trimmer version.
I read both of them. I read both versions of it, and I still feel that the other one had enough language in it that one of the sections was the bathroom
You don't need to do
issue.
that. There's one.
And I still feel that there was enough ambiguity in the wording of it to allow us to deal with the individual issues. But it was enough guidelines that the parents knew that we were kind of serious, and that it was there for them to read, and I like more detail. So, having dealt with townspeople and having dealt with policies, I just kind of felt that it was based in law, and it was to me a better policy. So again, I don't disagree with the policy. I'm right on board with the policy, and I want everybody who's watching this, hello, to be clear about that. But it's just, I like the other policy better.
Got it.
I'll
Anybody else?
abstain from it, not vote no.
Oh, no problem.
No, I'll vote.
Got
I'll
it.
abstain.
Anybody else on the policies? Any comments?
No, I'll abstain, just so everybody is clear on that.
Cindy, please call the roll.
Mrs. Matos?
Yes.
Mrs. Rosenwald?
I'll abstain from the 56. And yes on everything else.
Mrs. Wolf?
Yes.
Mrs. Dean?
Yes.
Mrs. Ennie?
Yes.
Mr. Marshall?
Yes.
Mrs. Lou Riddell?
Yes.
And Mr. Lalonski?
Yes. Liaison reports, we have anything from New Jersey School Board? Anything from Monmouth County School Board Association? Marlboro Township?
The last meeting, last town council meeting was held at Greenbrier. There were a lot of people in attendance.
Thank you. PTA, PTO?
We held our first,
Good?
you okay?
Oh, I was finishing.
We held our first PTO President's Council meeting for the 2015-16 school year on October 6th. It was good discussion. We discussed really just distribution of things. And
We did.
It wasn't anything major. You went through the referendum. You gave a
I
whole
did.
presentation to them.
Yeah.
They had a lot of good questions. They were
Yeah.
going to go back.
Talked
And
about
then
grading.
talked about grading, the bucket, supplemental bucket. You told them and asked them nicely for their permission to attend their PTO meetings, so
Did.
you could give referendum presentations at every single PTO
Absolutely.
meeting at every school. So I know you've made your rounds. I don't know if
Yeah.
you've gone to every single school yet.
No,
but
we
you've
have.
gone through a lot of them.
Yeah, tomorrow we have Memorial and Dugan, right, Sen?
We have the list too.
Yeah, and we have to divide and conquer because the meetings were scheduled back-to-back consecutively. So I have Memorial, Cindy has Dugan.
we discussed the messenger text.
We just have messenger
Yes.
text and placement criteria, you know.
Yes.
Okay. Thanks, Rick. Creo Regional. That was John, right? Marlboro Township, oh, we did that already. Marlboro Educational Foundation?
Yes, the teacher's grant application deadline is Wednesday, November 4th. So please encourage the principals to encourage their teachers to fill out the forms for their grants. They have lots of money to give to the teachers for grants for their classrooms
They're not being
and for their
applied.
grades.
The needs need to be
The
addressed. and that's what
foundation
Bill
is also looking for new trustees, volunteers.
Pass that referendum real quick.
It's funny.
There will be There will be a meet and greet meeting Thursday night, the 22nd at 7:30 at Whole Foods. If you or anybody you know is interested, please come.
When's that, Tara?
Thursday night, the 22nd at 7:30. It'll be at Whole Foods.
October?
October 22nd.
This
Well, that's
Thursday?
our- That's our thing. You
go,
can't go
Dr.
in the
Hibbs.
referendum.
Goes from 7:30 to what? On?
Yeah, they're doing first the meet and greet, and then they're going through their regular agenda.
Okay.
So I'm not sure how long they'll be there. How long you think they'll be there, Robin?
About an hour, probably.
So 8:30, maybe 9,
Yeah.
tops.
We'll see.
And if anybody needs more information, you can contact Lisa Nabalsi, you can contact Robin Wolf, you can contact me. You can contact anything we can do.
Okay. Thank you, Dara.
No alliance information.
No alliance, that's what I was going to ask you. Okay. Committee reports, I don't believe we have anything new for buildings and grounds to report. Nope. Anybody have any old business?
I do.
Okay.
A little old, little new. From this meeting. Yeah.
Present business.
Present business, I guess. You can't, there was an article put out already on the Asbury Park Press that we backtracked on the decision on the murals. You can't backtrack from something that you didn't really have a plan from. And the definition of backtrack is retrace one's steps. We didn't have steps that we had put out there. I know. Someone had texted me and I got up to go there to read it and they said, you should read the Asbury Park Press. So we didn't backtrack. We heard the people, we heard the needs. And thank you, Dr. Hibbs, for reaching out to David and getting a solution. And I pray that that works and he comes in and
Can restore.
And I'm sure he's going to enjoy that, being back in his school.
Yes.
And I think it's a good thing for our district. It's a good PR thing that we were able to
Absolutely.
come to amends. We should not be at war with each other. We're all here for the same thing, the same cause, the children of this district. So it shouldn't be them against us. It shouldn't be a war. It should be that we're all here together. So I just wanted to put that out there. Because my husband wasn't able to attend, and some other friends weren't able to attend, but I went back and read it, so.
Thank you. Thank you, Vicky. Very true. Yeah.
The parent-teacher conferences?
Yes.
I know you have put it out there plenty of times that if a parent asks a teacher for FaceTime, they will receive FaceTime no matter what.
Yeah.
It
So-
doesn't have to be within the 2 nights.
No, and honestly, yes. So if a parent reaches out to a teacher, just like they do any time during the year. So let's go back 5 years ago when this contract language did not exist. Parents would reach out to our great teachers. Our great teachers would accommodate. That same concept still goes in. Even though that the contract language says that it's on student need and not parent request. We had so many teachers last year that went above and beyond, came in early, stayed late, to do what is absolutely awesome for our community. But outside of the conference window, anytime they want or anytime a parent wants some contact, that's why we're here. It really is why we're here and what we do. And if we convey to parents that they can't come in and I can't make time for you, then we convey the wrong message, 100%.
I just wanted to make sure you could reiterate that because it's not just 2 nights. I've seen the teachers
Oh,
go in and
absolutely.
out with parents
Yeah.
all the time.
Yeah, all the time, 100%.
Just the other, the MEF that she mentioned, Do you send out emails to the administrators?
About the grants?
As far as, yeah, the deadline?
Yeah,
They
so
do, they-
it's been on every administrative
Oh.
agenda for the
So
past,
they're
I think,
sorry, so you-
the past 3 months.
Okay.
Please encourage our great staff to apply for the MEF grants.
Okay.
I was
Just
bummed
wondering.
that I don't think we saw, is Mr. Malone still back there? No, he's not, right? No. I was, one of the ones from last year was the genetic tracing, which was really cool. And I don't know if you all know this, but I'm adopted, and I have no idea where I'm from. So I'm going to do that separately on my own. But I mean, those are the kinds of things we want to see happen in our schools, and that was an incredible thing the foundation did, and they give so selfishly or selflessly to our district and our kids. Just some amazing things.
Great stuff.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else, all business?
It was great.
New business. My new business. Okay. Seeing none, bring us to our final public session, open to any item. Any public wish to address the board, come forward.
Sarah Heisler, 1103 Roseberry Court. I want to respond a little bit, now it's my turn to go back and forth about what I previously mentioned. My heart is breaking right now. I waited till 10:30. While we're talking about Genesis, I went on Genesis and checked my child's tests and quizzes. What I want to say is, it's not marking period, Dr. Hibbs. What I said earlier was 19 tests, quizzes, and the supplemental bucket, which correct me if I'm wrong, it's like a surprise quiz or something like that that's not announced, that can go into that supplemental bucket, which is 20% of my child's grade. It was 19 of those in the first 25 days. So I'm including like the first day back at school, I'm including, which obviously he didn't have those tests, so like the first 3 days were easy breezy for everyone, or 4 days. 19 out of 25. Now, this current week, so there's still 4 weeks left to the marking period. So it's not 19 in a marking period, because that to me I think would be okay. I'm at least doubling it. I'm going to say 38, just for fun, because it's 4 more weeks left. And then there's also that supplemental surprise element there. This week alone, which is not included, so that's as of 10/16, is the 25 days that I'm counting, 19 out of 25. This week, I'm preparing my child for another 5 tests/quizzes, not supplemental, because I don't know about those. I just checked Genesis, and today there was a supplemental surprise pop quiz. I cannot prepare my child anymore. I have a private tutor for him that comes once a week. I'm studying with him an hour a night. He's only 9. He still wants to try out for rec basketball, which he did today. He plays rec soccer. My husband coaches rec soccer. He wants to be 9. I don't know what else to do. I'm begging you. Please help me and help. He's not the only 9-year-old. There's all the other 9-year-olds in 4th grade. I know what's happening in other grades. I don't know what to do. He bombed that supplemental test. Bombed it. I mean, I'm not talking about like a 70. I'm talking about bomb the test, okay? And I don't know how, he prepared for it. I don't know how else to prepare for him, because he's so busy prepping for the other 5 things that he's got going on that, I have to kind of prioritize, like, an hour. I think the average for a kid is 10 minutes per grade. That's like the normal homework. Now, yes, there's going to be days where there's a lot more, and that's okay by me. I'm okay. Plus, on top of that, he does reading. He does typing tutor or typing training, I think it's called. There's going to be ST math coming down the road. There's a lot of other stuff, and I still want him to go outside and get fresh air. I still need him to do, 8 or 9 hours of sleeping at night. And I want to see him. Like, I want to take him on a good adventure. I want him to do, like, fun stuff on the weekends. I want to hang with him. I want him to hang with his sister. And, oh, yeah, I need him to have play dates and social interaction and, that kind of stuff. And I want him to do well in school. I'm not a big, this is going to sound crazy, I'm not a pusher, like, he's got to get 100 in every test. That's not my kid. I'm very realistic. Maybe it'll be my daughter. It's not my son. But bombing a surprise test that I've been prepping him, that he's got a tutor for, I mean, that doesn't sound normal to you, right? Like, that just sounds weird.
There are no surprise tests.
Well, it was unannounced. It's not on the homework. It's not listed.
Is it in supplemental?
It's in supplemental.
It's not a test.
What is it?
It's a teacher acquiring a grade. Not everything. See, part of the problem here, and I know we don't go back and forth, but I'd rather just address it. Part of the problem is that it's a sea change on how we're acquiring grades. So a teacher should have the ability in any moment of acquiring a grade. there's nowhere in life where everything is announced. Even tonight, I was judged by a lot of people on an unannounced quiz. How does Dr. Hibbs respond? How is Dr. Hibbs going to respond when he gets a petition with 1,100 people, and he's asked about what was the plan for Asher? There was no specific plan. I have to then figure out, where do we go from here? So as far as that goes, it's not a test, though. That's why we created a supplemental bucket, is because it's differentiated from the tests and the quizzes, which are all announced. That could be a do now activity. So say we talked about adding fractions on Tuesday. When they come in as a do now, there might be a 5-question quiz on adding fractions, taken for a grade.
It's a quiz. You just said it's a do now for a
Yeah,
quiz.
but it goes in the supplemental.
With all due respect, I'm not asking you how old you are. My son is 9. He's in the 4th grade.
Sure.
I don't agree with the comparison for people asking you and not quizzing you here versus my 9-year-old who's struggling to keep up. I can't even catch him up. I'm having trouble, and it's only October. He's learning stuff from 3rd grade. This is 4th grade. So I'm just begging you as a parent to reconsider and think about how much work we're giving them. I know we got to prep them and prepare them, and I want to do that too, but it's stressing them out, and it's October, and it's stressing me out, and I'm 37. So
I mean, if you're talking about
Past college.
homework, when homework issues are brought to me, Mr. Balone took them right to Mrs. Nowacki to say, we shouldn't be having this much homework. But it's really, you can't blur the line between the two. We do have set expectations for homework, and we do have set grading expectations.
is it the 10 minutes?
It's not.
Well,
Actually,
it's
more
now
than
there's-
that. It's actually more than
Yeah,
that,
it's-
'cause I questioned that
Yes.
this week myself, from my own child and other people with middle school.
Have you reached out to your child's teacher?
I was emailing while you guys were discussing
Okay.
stuff that didn't.
That's your first move,
Mhm.
is to reach out to your child's teacher, because it always starts there, because they are the
Second
most
email,
important
so-
person. I'm sorry?
This will be the second round to the teacher, so yeah.
Okay.
I'm working it out with the teacher. The teacher is not at stake here. Nothing to do with the teacher. I'm just talking about what I see going on.
Sure.
in the
But
fourth grade.
your
So-
first move is your teacher, and then you can climb your way from there. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Can I just add something, if you don't mind, Dr. Hibbs?
Go ahead.
Or Mike. I wanted to let you know that a few of us still have kids in the district too, so we appreciate you coming to let us know what your child is doing or the other child is doing, because we could feel out the whole different, classroom scenario. But like Dr. Hibbs said, I mean, I just quickly went on to my son's Genesis, and he's in middle school, but his math alone is 12 tests, quizzes, and supplemental, and I have to tell you, it could be a matter of a child too, because he never felt the pressure. His supplemental, I know for sure, in all of his classes have never been surprises. If it's a surprise, I think they call it exit.
An exit slip?
An exit slip, or a do now, like you said. So I think the word assessment that we use a lot
Covers everything.
covers everything. So, the tests and quizzes, the assessments are also in the supplements, but they're not the tests and quizzes.
A question about the exit
Yeah.
tickets. I'm going to speak about my experience with exit tickets. When I use an exit ticket, I use it so I can see where the kids are.
Sure.
I use it so I can see who grasps the higher level thinking, who grasps the average, and who's at the
Sure.
just starting. I don't use it as a grade, because what that does, what exit tickets do when you use it as a grade, in my opinion as a teacher, it takes your higher students, your students who get high grades, it boosts their high grades. It takes your average students, keeps them at that 70 range, and it takes the kids who struggle a little, the kids who need remediation, the kids who are missing the main concepts, who are not learning at the same pace, and it keeps them down. Why are exit tickets being used as grades? It does. It absolutely does. Exit tickets should be used to see where the kids are. I don't know why
I don't
they're
agree.
used as supplementary thing.
I don't agree, because I would argue, all right, so let's imagine if we eliminated,
An exit ticket, after you teach a lesson.
it's an evaluation at the end of a,
Exit ticket is your closing thing to see what the kids got. So if I taught a lesson on
Africa all week. That was the example
No,
you
it's
gave me,
not,
like a
no, but
you
it's
said like
not,
a
it's
subject,
not,
please.
it's not,
Multiplying decimals.
thing.
Like a subject,
If
you said if
I'm-
it was like on a subject.
It's, but it's not,
Yeah,
it's a
specific.
one-day thing.
Yeah.
So if I introduce adding fractions with unlike denominators, and I teach them how to make the denominators, that you have to change the unlike denominators to like denominators and add them. At the end of the class, I give them this exit ticket with maybe 3 or 4 problems. The kids who are my quick learners are gonna get between a 90 and 100 on it. My average students are gonna get between, 75, 85 on it. My kids who don't pick things up quickly they're slower learners. They're not gonna pick it up the first time. They need to be retaught. And I'm gonna use the exit ticket to see who grasped it, who didn't, who do I need to reteach, who do I need to give enrichment in this subject, and who's moving along at the right pace.
But there is a theory that the more grades that you have in a grade book,
Absolutely.
the better it is for the child.
But not an exit ticket.
Well, hold on, guys. So here's what I'll say.
They're using
The-
exit tickets and stuff like that as assessments.
Psychological disagreement.
So
Dr.
some
Hibbs is
assessments
gonna-
should be used for teachers.
This isn't actually our
No, it's not.
This is not a board.
No, but
So-
that is what
Oh, no,
Sarah
like-
is bringing to you.
Listen, here's the real deal. To say that, to have not what you have the opposite. What's the opposite? So, you sat with me last year at PTAs where literally there was a different complaint. The different complaint was the CAs are worth too much, you're banging my kid on the head, it's not right, the buckets are too low, I logged into my child's grade book, there's 5 grades, one of those grades was a 70, 70% of that child's test was a 70. How is that fair for children? It wasn't fair for children. So listen, exit ticket, any assessment that a teacher is going to give, it doesn't matter what it is. Call it an exit ticket, call it a do now, call it a, hey, I want to see a progress check on where you are right now. If that administration of that assessment is given before the children have been given the opportunity to fully grasp that concept, is an unfair assessment. So as a teacher, if I was doing a hard concept with decimals, right, and I say I had 2 days on the pacing guide for it, what I would not do is on the first day of that, bang the kids over the head. Now, every teacher in this district, they are intelligent human beings and are absolutely capable in the moment of knowing, can I give an assessment and is it fair? That's it. So at the end of the day, they are responsible for making that value judgment. So if anyone does an assessment, and this concept came up last year for the common assessments, because one of the complaints was, you're giving the common assessment before you're teaching my kids. I said, grinding halt, not fair, we're not going to do that. So there has to be an adequate time for a student to grasp. I hear you. And if there's not adequate time, 100%, I would agree that's not fair. Children do learn at all different speeds. But what I am saying is, the assumption is that that opportunity to grasp has been there. Now, can they still look at that and then figure out who are my highs, my mediums, and my lows, God bless, and then flexibly group in small group? Absolutely. That's what we want. Can they differentiate homework based upon that? Absolutely. Hope they do. So I hear you. But no matter what it may be, there's no difference in the opposite of that. In other words, having the children walk in for a do now activity if they did metaphors, and then having that be an assessment when they walk in. But the assumption there is they've been given the adequate time. So if they're not being given the adequate time, I got you, and as a parent, I would call and say, hey, for my kids, I have a beef, and here's my beef. You didn't give my child an opportunity to learn this. You then assess them what I think is unfair, and I think that will be a valid conversation between a parent and a teacher.
I think they're built to the higher learners.
Well, what the pacing is, it's built towards the Common Core state standards, which we have to meet. I think we should move.
I
have more public people that want to speak.
I just have a question.
Yeah.
Are we still grading homework?
Yeah, homework. It's the 1 or the 2 grade. It's the effort.
And what percentage of our grade is homework?
I think it's roughly 5%. We lowered it.
Okay.
Look, 5%
I'm still
is
in
half of what it was, so we make it
public
try.
session.
Yes.
Okay, let me continue public session, guys, please. I don't know if there's someone else here I'm sure would like to speak.
Hi, my name is Julie Todd, 497 Tennant Road. One, I just want to thank you, Dr. Hibbs, and everyone for saving the murals. I appreciate you listening and
Not a problem.
hearing everyone. But I have a few things that I wanted to go. I have a lot of questions about the referendum, but I will save that for tomorrow night.
Okay, fair enough.
So,
Thursday night.
Thursday night.
not tomorrow night, is it?
Wednesday.
No.
Thursday night.
Yeah, now it'll be tomorrow night.
One thing, though, that...
You're fine, Julie.
Good.
One thing, though, that I did want to ask regarding the conferences, because it's a big deal. For instance, my older son's in kindergarten.
Mhm.
I met a teacher at back-to-school night, so to not be that mom and to constantly email or to constantly call,
Sure.
but to want to know, like, this is first time in, like, our learning environment. Like, how are they doing? Like, I want to know. And also to speak to what you were just talking about, I haven't yet experienced a lot of some of this stuff. How would I know if the test or the exit ticket wasn't given at an appropriate time? Unless I have that interaction with the teachers.
Sure.
So you said you couldn't change it for tomorrow. You couldn't change, is there any way that you could change the wording in the contract for next year? Do you have ability to do that? And if so, is it something that could be done? I know it might go into negotiations and teacher contracts and stuff like that, but if it's something that could be an issue, I would like for it to be considered, because I missed that interaction face to face with the teacher. And also, one other thing just to think about, so maybe I could get an answer on Thursday, is I'm not familiar at all with school budgets and how they work, and if you're allowed to keep a surplus, like say 50 years ago, if the board had the foresight to think about these capital improvements that we all know, that you had mentioned as homeowners, our roof has a timeline, our water heater has an end life to it. If you were able to keep like a slush fund, to have been able to prepare for this. And if that's possible, can we do that going forward so that in another 20, 30, 40 years, a whole other set of parents aren't here faced with the same type of problems?
Okay.
Another referendum thing, I'm not expecting an answer.
You can go, and if I can answer it, I will.
I know, for example, we're not, we don't meet the requirement for the debt aid for the majority of the audit portion of 40%, based on the fact, I think, at today's PTO meeting.
Unhoused students.
Unhoused students in need. Basically, we don't.
It's
show any
unhoused
need.
students.
So, if we said that we're going to make it full day, and.
No, we already did. Doesn't matter, you don't have, the way the process works, you don't have the kids.
We would literally have to have children not
Yes.
in the place.
Yes. No, they know the intent, they know what we were doing, it's just, no.
You went into unhoused students?
Yeah.
And then.
It's really developed, huh?
Yeah, we tried.
No, I think that's it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anyone else in the public wish to address the board? You want to hear any of those?
Okay. Julie, thank you for your thank you, one. Lots of questions. You didn't really have lots of questions, just so you know. That was actually nice. So conferences. The specific way, it's contract language that's negotiated. So in order for that to change, it has to be negotiated. So it would have to run through negotiations. What I can do, which is my purview as a superintendent, is I can make known my feeling that if a parent would like a meeting, that we have to make sure the parent is adequately, has their needs met, which our teachers do, 100%. So if you reach out to a teacher and say, in May, I would like to meet regarding, is it your son? Yeah, regarding my son's progress, they will 100% meet with you, absolutely. Talk about whatever it is that you need to talk about. that would be outside of the conference area. So if you don't get a conference, just reach out to your building principal or your teacher and just say, hey, I have some concerns. Here's how I'd like to have them met. You are heard on the board heard you on, could there be a possible change to that? Can we keep a surplus? Well, we can, but it's hardly anything. So at the end of every year, we put money into our reserve accounts. Sandy, we have about $3 million in maintenance right now, roughly?
0.2, and the max we can have is 4.2. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah, they capped that a long time, or not a long time ago. How many years, Sandy?
Oh, long time.
Long time.
And I just want to mention, the reason we didn't have to go to the public for a referendum on security is because of our maintenance reserve that we had at the time.
Yeah.
Covered our security.
And that was a one-shot wonder, because I think that was the way that the negotiated agreement fell, and there ended up being a little extra money. That kind of a millions type thing doesn't exist. And when you go to what we talked about for the presentation, the overall capital costs were $26 million. Our operating budget is upwards of 90. It's 1/3. There's no way you could physically ever do that. You absolutely couldn't have done that.
Yeah, no, I didn't mean in just the last 5 years.
I mean, could we have built it up and saved? Yeah, you can't save it that far.
No. Also, if you would do it that way, you wouldn't get 40% money from the state.
Because you'd be doing it out of all the local.
Yeah.
Can you keep surplus? Could we have prepared for this? We couldn't have. And this is what I really try to make known whenever I have this discussion, because the question I get is, well, why didn't you do something? Why didn't the board do something? This board did a ton. I mean, every year they have numerous projects that we undertake. The Chiller Memorial, the roof at Middle, the paving at Dugan, all these big ticket items, the concrete work, it never ends here. It really is is a constant, roofs, it's a constant motion of fixing. This is just, this is like trying to fit a mortgage that's 10 times right now your mortgage into your existing budget. You just can't do it.
Okay. All right, sir. Thank you.
You got it.
I'm going to read the executive session resolution. Go ahead.
Can Dr. Heap, talk to the older principal elementary middle schools? Then if any parents want to have a conference call, the teacher will give it granted for the short meeting or based on the schedule availability between the teacher and the parent.
Yeah, our teachers have done this for years upon years. They meet with parents whenever there's a need. So even going back, like I said before, 5 years ago, before any of this contract language, if a parent reaches out, our parents meet with them. It happens all the time.
Yeah, I'm just saying because you're broadcasting for the public meeting, for all the people already listen to your promise. And when the parents reach the teachers, they will fully grant it at a time slot request, for them to meet, communicate. So good idea for you to, talk to the older principal.
It's already communicated. Yeah, it's already communicated.
Okay. Executive session resolution. Be resolved in accordance with the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Act, Marlborough Township Board of Education shall conduct a closed executive session pursuant to personnel legal exceptions required by NJSA 10:4-12. Purpose discussion of school safety and security, also negotiations. Intended length of time executive session will be 15 minutes, and action will not be taken in public executive session. Be further resolved, the minutes of executive session will be released with need for confidentiality in accordance with NJSA 10:4-12 no longer applies. And that is seconded by Debbie. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody against? Okay, we will go into executive session. Thank you, everybody, for coming out.